Controller Podcast, a show where a couple of best friends talk about the latest in video games and nerd culture. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we talk about Animal Crossing too much. Either way, we have a new episode for you each and every week. Hey, there's Navi. Uh, this is a special episode, though. We have a few special guests joining us to talk about Final Fantasy VII, the remake. This is a spoiler cast, so if you stumbled upon this episode not paying attention and don't want to listen to Final Fantasy banter or don't want the game somehow spoiled for you, I would, I don't know, go listen to something else at this point. So without further ado, as always, I'm your host, Brenden Groom, and joining me on this fine evening is the former Overwatch fiend, Todd Gary. Todd, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I literally played this game for 10 hours today to make sure I finished it for this podcast. So, yeah, I was burnt out by the time I finished.
We'll dive, I'm sure, very deep. I think it's gonna get very heated when you start giving your take on the game.
Yeah.
But making his, I don't know, at this point, I think fourth appearance on the show, he's got the mantle of most guest appearances, and I think he's trying to keep that. The features editor for Twinfinite, Mr. Greysun Morales. Greysun, how are you doing tonight?
What's up? I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good.
How much coffee have you had today?
Just one this morning. Now I'm drinking wine. So.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, I'm waiting for beer to get cold.
Yeah, I just cracked a beer. And also joining us for the first time ever is a writer from Twinfinite, Mr. Jesse Vitelli. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I got my gamer juice here.
Ooh.
You can't really see it. It's just lemon lime Gatorade. That's all it is.
Now, how does it feel to not be playing Animal Crossing? Because you stopped playing for a few days, right?
Yeah, I'm on my fifth day of no Animal Crossing. It's freeing. It's freeing in a way I did not expect it to be. The first day was hard, but it got better.
You think you'll dip back in like from time to time, or is it done for you?
Yeah, I just got a couple friends recently who picked up the game, so I've been helping them out when I can. So I'm sure I'll hop back in to give them some stuff and let them come over and shop.
I think that'll be the way that a lot of people kind of, even if they back away, when they're friends that they know that maybe, aren't big gamers, or maybe they are and they just haven't gotten Animal Crossing yet, hop in. I feel like it'll be a good reason to go back in and kind of Sherpa people around and stuff.
Exactly.
And then rounding out our special panel for this Final Fantasy Remake spoiler cast, the kind of funny Intersight champion. Still currently, right? Because you're gonna have that title for a while now.
Probably another year, yeah. But I'm not gonna consider it it's not a 2-time winner or anything like that.
I mean, it's a championship belt that someone, or it's a trophy or a belt? It's a trophy. No, it's a belt.
Trophy. It's a trophy.
Oh, he's got it ready to go. He's got it right here.
Hey, to be fair, my fiance put this here, so I was just like, okay, cool. I'm cool with it. It was in my room. It was in our room for the longest time, and I was just like, okay. And then she moved over here. She's like, it's got to be displayed. I'm like, okay, sure.
She cares.
Yeah.
Cameron Hawkins, also many, many words at DualShockers. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Now, off the bat here, who do we think is the biggest Final Fantasy fan in this panel? It's not me.
Probably me or Greysun, I would think. I don't know Jesse. I've just met Jesse, so I don't really know about Jesse's Final Fantasy background, but I know that me and Jesse are big stans of Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, me too.
But I honestly haven't played as much Final Fantasy as people probably think I have. I just am really vocal about the games that I have played and the games I really like. I've played most of the series after 7 forward. Which is kind of where most people start, playing through the games, because those are just the most easy to access games nowadays. 6 I know that is very beloved as well, but I have yet to play that personally.
So I guess that can roll us right into the first topic before we get Final Fantasy VII specific. We can go in any order, but what is everyone's relationship with Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII, just so that the listeners can kind of pick up on that as we go along, to see where we all stand. So if you want to just keep it going, Cam, with your thoughts on Final Fantasy.
Yeah, so I played Final Fantasy VII when I was really young. It wasn't it was at my friend's house. He had a PlayStation 1. I never personally had my own PlayStation 1. and I just come over and we'd play through the game, and he would let me play through it, and it was a really fantastic game that really like set a standard, and like I wouldn't say set a standard, but really revolutionized like JRPGs in like the Western audience, I'd say, and things like that. I also adore Final Fantasy 13. I know that that's a very divisive title, but I think that Final Fantasy, just as a franchise, it has always been that JRPG franchise that makes me think this is what JRPGs can be, like as a AAA mainstream like title, because even JRPGs have become more approachable. Like people are more open to them nowadays compared to in the past, I would say.
Yeah, I would say.
But Final Fantasy 13 was like, when I first played that, it was just so big in scope of just like visuals and presentation in a way that I didn't really see in a JRPG before prior to that. And I think that Final Fantasy VII Remake is the latest game after 13 that has made me feel the same way, which the remake was made by the 13 team, and it is very obvious when you play through the game, if you've played 13, how much of its DNA is synced into this game.
Which one's 13? Is
Yeah,
that the
is
Bros?
13 Zodiac Age?
13
No,
is,
it's 12.
is Lightning. It was
Okay.
the first one that hit Xbox 360. Like it was it's when they went
PS3,
multi-platform.
I think I played parts of 13, but
Yeah,
I,
so
didn't,
the-
three
I
games.
definitely didn't play
in
13
that
too.
trilogy too.
So there's 3 games in the trilogy. I played the first 2 and I couldn't finish Lightning Returns. It just didn't click with me at all. But the reason why 13 is so divisive is because it is very it takes a while for the game to really open up, and it's very tutorial based for, I would say, like a good 10 hours. Like, and I know that for a lot of people that's a turnoff, but in my opinion, there's so much more going on in the game outside of just gameplay that made me want to continue on and playing. And I think that if you make that investment, you will be satisfied with it. Like, you'll be glad that you did. So, this isn't, I'm not trying to sell everybody to play Final Fantasy 13 right now, but it's very good, and I think people who, whether you played it or not, should give it another shot. It's a great game. But yeah, that's kind of my like main history of Final Fantasy. I've also played others like 8. I played 10. I haven't played 12. I haven't played 9. And I played 15. I love 15. Even though it's for the situation that game had behind the scenes, that game turned out a lot better than it could have been.
Okay.
Agreed.
Grayson, what about you? What's your relationship with Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII?
As for just Final Fantasy VII itself, I wasn't super familiar with that universe before jumping into Remake. Like, I played a little bit of Crisis Core. I played like the first few hours of the original Final Fantasy VII. I watched Advent Children. Like, I know that universe and those characters, but I've never really been spoiled on, like, besides that one big spoiler that everybody knows about, I never really been spoiled on the overarching plot of Final Fantasy VII. I don't. You don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
Oh man, you don't know what it is? Ooh.
This
Dude,
changes
you guys have no
everything.
idea.
This changes everything moving forward. I'm so glad you said that, because I would have been like,
Yes.
oh yeah, this happens, and
Yeah,
this is gonna happen.
That's why I didn't say it, because I know he doesn't know what it is.
So
Oh,
if the
man.
conversation goes that way and it has to get brought up, it has to. That's fine.
We can make up a name,
No,
'cause
dude,
everyone
like,
knows.
if you
Like,
don't
why don't we just
know,
make up a fake
like,
name?
if you don't know, we are
I
not
don't-
gonna
Yeah.
spoil it for you.
Yeah,
'Cause
we can't.
it's great.
I don't think we need to.
It's easy to talk
have a
talk
discussion.
around it. It's easy
Yeah,
to
yeah,
talk.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
easy to talk
Alright.
around.
I've
was
been
I
like,
saying?
or I'll when it's my turn, I'll go. But
Okay.
yes. Keep
Um,
saying.
Yeah, as far as Final Fantasy VII goes, I wasn't super familiar with it. But as far as the whole entire franchise, yeah, I think I played pretty much every single mainline game, at least a little bit, just to try it out. But mostly the modern ones are the ones I finished. So I played the 13 trilogy, I played 15, I played 10, 12, 9. But yeah, just never really knew what 7 was about. But we'll talk about it later. But like, even though it has a lot of issues, I really, really, really love this game for what it was.
Mhm.
and how Cameron mentioned earlier how like it's probably one of the first JRPGs in a very long time that has gotten the intention of like has gotten people into Final Fantasy for the first time ever. And it's funny because Final Fantasy 15 was trademarked as like, oh, Final Fantasy for beginners, for new people. And I feel like no newbies played that game. It's like just people who are familiar with the series. But I think this did a really good job of grabbing people in that wouldn't necessarily play a JRPG like this.
I mean, I'll say 7 Remake did what 15 didn't do for me. I bought 15.
Yeah.
I liked it at first, and then I don't know, it got like too linear or too boring too quickly. I don't know. There's something about it that just made me fall off from it right away. But what about you, Jesse? What is your relationship with Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII?
So with 7 specifically, I had not played the original. I know the big thing that we just talked about. And I know a couple other things. I knew the characters going in, like you can't avoid Cloud. Like Cloud is everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
He's that dude from Super Smash Brothers. But as far as all the other Final Fantasies, I think I've beaten every Final Fantasy except 4 and 11.
Oh wow.
Because 11 was an MMO, and I beat 14's like main like first scenario.
Yeah, same here.
But so I think I've played everything except 4 and 11 in terms of completion, and so I have like a pretty good foundation with Final Fantasy. Weirdly enough, it's not my favorite series, but I play them all for some reason.
Yeah.
But
what is your favorite series, just so for a frame of reference?
Favorite series, Persona's up there. It might be Persona.
Okay.
I'm going through Royal right now, really enjoying it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think 6 is still my favorite Final Fantasy. But yeah, man, I don't know. Remake is giving it a run for its money. It was a damn good video game. And I also love 15. I love 15.
See, maybe I need to give 15 another shot.
I played through 15 like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I think with 15, just really quick, that you just have to kind of take it. It's kind of like how I felt recently playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, and Odyssey really turned me off because it just wasn't what I wanted from an Assassin's Creed game. And in 15, it's just you just kind of have to take it for what it is. And if you take it for what it is as like an open world, like, you know, which a game that we haven't really seen like it in Final Fantasy before, you'll enjoy it more because like for me, like I did everything that I could do in the open world of 15 before I finished the story. Like I did everything that I could possibly do, and then I worried about the story because I knew going into it how it was structured. I heard that the story wasn't, you know, it was a little disappointing in some aspects, which I think are true. But like if you take it for what it is, take your time with it, it's so good. You can easily put in 100 hours into that game.
Does it play just like 7, the remake too?
No. So the remake is like its own new combat system. It's kind of like a mixture of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 13. And then 7 is turn-based, just like kind of like your go-to turn-based. There's a time system as well where, like, you know, you have to wait for the time bar to go up before you can choose a command for your characters. So it's not like straight up enemy goes, you go, enemy goes, you go in that sense, like Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's similar to Kingdom Hearts, but it's not so floaty or freeform. It's a little bit more grounded.
It's more.
You didn't play 15, Todd?
That makes sense.
I played like 5 or 6 hours of it, and it just didn't catch me.
Wait, I thought you were talking about remake.
Oh, I was saying if the combat was it similar to the remake? The combat.
Oh,
It was 15's combat. Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. It's kind of its
Yeah.
own thing. It's very Kingdom Hearts influence, but more grounded, and that's I would say.
7 is almost like a more realized version of 15. Like I feel like 7 is what 15 wanted to be.
Yeah.
But they just hadn't figured it out.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with 15 being a mixture of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clear.
So, what about you, Todd? What is your relationship with Final Fantasy and
It's
Final
weird because
Fantasy
like
VII?
everyone's talking about Final Fantasy right now, and I feel like I've only played 3 of them, which is like sad. But I played,
wait till you get to me.
Yeah. Well, one of the first RPGs I've ever played was Final Fantasy III for Super Nintendo, and that was a huge deal to me because I actually beat it. And it was not my style of game at all. I'm used to playing like, you know, the streamlined games and not like going off the path of like, wait, turn-based? What does this even mean? How do I do, like, what am I doing right now? But 3 won me over big time. And then I don't know why, but I never played another one until 7. And then 7 won me over huge, and it's the second JRPG I've ever finished in my life. You know, like where I don't play like a ton of them, and 7 just like stands out to me so much because it was more of like an updated feel of like the, you know, like the steampunk kind of thing. It just worked so well for like the time period we were in when it came out. But yeah, I mean that's like I said, that's one of the second ones I've ever finished. And then I played 15, and I barely touched 15 though.
And for those that aren't familiar with Final Fantasy, as when he says Final Fantasy 3 for the SNES, he means Final Fantasy 6. Just
okay, is that what it is?
Yeah, in America, it was just changed to Final Fantasy 6.
Okay.
But what that is technically, you're not wrong. It's just
super confusing.
That's considered Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I knew there was a numbering discrepancy between Japan and here. I just didn't know which titles it was, so I was not going to chime in at any point with those facts. I assumed someone else would pick up that slack.
Yeah.
So to round out where everyone stands with Final Fantasy, for me, like I love JRPGs, and I've played a lot across a bunch of different, other franchises and other one-offs and what have you. Like Super Mario RPG is one of my favorite games of all time. But with Final Fantasy in particular, growing up, I never owned, I don't think any Final Fantasy games were in my house. The first time that I had anything that was my own Final Fantasy was at some point during the PS1 era. I got, with some PlayStation magazine, I got a demo disc, and it had a demo of Final Fantasy VII on it that was just like a few battles in Midgar with Cloud and Barrett and maybe Tifa. I can't remember. But it was just a small little section of the game. And I played that a lot. And it was a very small snippet. Like, it was not a lot of gameplay, but I played through it a bunch of times, and I just never, ever got the game again. So that was my experience with Final Fantasy VII up until this year. And really, I've only ever known about Cloud just because how can you not know who Cloud is? And I've known Barrett because of the demo. And I knew who Sephiroth was just because I feel like he's a villain that gets mentioned a lot on lists of like best villains of all time. So like I knew that he was a Final Fantasy villain that was revered. I knew he was in Final Fantasy VII. I know he does something in Kingdom Hearts. Like I know that he exists as a big villain that people care about. But other than that, like I didn't know anything about Final Fantasy VII story at all, and that became super apparent to me as I was playing the remake. And I think that's kind of why I fell in love with the remake a little bit, because to me it was like I don't know anything about this, so it was a story that I liked getting in. For Final Fantasy as a series, my favorite game, because again I've touched a lot of them, but I haven't really finished. I've only finished, besides Remake, one other Final Fantasy game, and it was actually two. I finished Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube, which is probably my favorite Final Fantasy game, and it's not a regular Final Fantasy game.
That's getting remastered, right?
It's coming to Switch and PS4.
Yeah, I've never played Crystal Chronicles, so I'm excited for that one.
It was supposed to already come out, but it got pushed back due to what's happening. But I still think it's supposed to come out this year. Yeah, I think it's still supposed to come out this year.
Cool.
On the GameCube, it was really hard to play that multiplayer though, because you had to have Game Boy Advance adapters. But when you had people and you could get that going, it was a great experience. It was just, not an ideal experience. So that game's great. And then Final Fantasy Tactics for the Game Boy Advance, fantastic game. I like those type of RPGs as well. So like to me, that was like a perfect game for me. But that's kind of like where I stand. And I mean, I know a little bit about certain characters, I've touched on a bunch of Final Fantasy games, but as far as games that I've finished, it's the remake, Crystal Chronicles, and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. So that's kind of where I stand on Final Fantasy. So that brings us to the next piece, which would be leading up to this long 5 years of development. Or was it longer or 5 years? 5 years, right?
It was announced in 2015, but it it was probably
going on for longer.
I mean, technically, it's been going on for years. Like
they had showed that PS3 tech
that
demo.
PS3 demo and stuff like that. Like Tetsuya Nomura said in an interview, like that that they've always wanted to remake Final Fantasy VII, and then they kind of realized how old they were getting, and they were like, if we are gonna do this, we need to fucking do this now. Like it was kind of that mentality. So because like Tetsuya Nomura's like in his late 40s now, Katase's like in his probably late 50s, early 60s, like so.
We'll see if part 2 comes out before they.
Yeah, right.
Well, so before we even get to what's gonna happen after the fact, leading up to this release, like where your own personal hype, like where were you for this? Like, were you guys like couldn't wait, or was anyone like not?
I had zero hype.
Me too. See, I mean,
it got announced in 2015, and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool," and then barely thought about it again until it came out.
Yeah,
and I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Well,
I was like, once Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I was just like, let's get on the fucking Final Fantasy train.
Wow.
Yeah, it's rare when Square Enix releases a huge modern JRPG like this. So like Cameron, like when Kingdom Hearts 3 gets released, I'm like super hyped. Final Fantasy, like the next entry, it's like super hyped. Like I'm the same amount as hyped as I would be for like Final Fantasy 16. It just feels like a brand new entry to me because I've never played Final Fantasy 7. So I was like extremely excited. But I also tried to like not dive into the trailers too much because I wanted to go in with a fresh perspective. And I think I managed to do that successfully somehow. But yeah.
Yeah, I watched all the trailers except for the last one just because everyone in the industry that was already playing the game was just like, do not watch this trailer. And I was just like, okay, I believe you. So I just didn't watch it. I still haven't even watched it after beating the game. But
yeah, I remember that. Does anyone know what the story reveal was in that trailer? And after the fact now that we've all played
from at least the screenshots I've seen, I think it shows like the very last stuff that you do, like kind of like the portal stuff at the end of the roadway and things like that.
Oh,
and
yeah, it's like out of context things that.
Yeah, just out of context
moment,
stuff.
But it is kind of like this happened.
But definitely new, like you would know, like this was not in the original. So
yeah, interesting. So Jesse, since you had like nothing going into this, what pushed you over the edge? Like what made you say I need to buy this game now?
Well, two things. One, I have a serious problem where I just buy every game that comes out. So I knew I was
like
going to buy it regardless. But like when I say I had like zero hype for it, I think I mean like in the like 5 years of its development, I probably didn't really start caring about this game until probably like right before PAX, I'd say, PAX East this year. Like after I saw some of the gameplay and then they released that demo and then I played it and I was like, you know what, this is pretty solid. And then like seeing reviews come out, I think like the weeks leading up to it, I was pretty hyped for it. And I was like, all right, I'll pick up this game. This seems like a worthwhile thing. But for most of the time, I was just like, yeah, all right, this game's never coming out. I don't have to think about this right now. I'll just kind of put it in the back of my head. And that's kind of where I landed on it.
For me, I like, again, not really having any attachment to 7 other than that demo, I like had no interest. And I'm sure if you listen to like the few podcasts leading up to the game coming out, I probably was like, I'm not buying this game. I have no interest. There's no point in me buying this. And it wasn't until I played the demo at PAX that after I got through that, which the demo itself was fine, but what really kind of hooked me was I was like, I kind of like the combat. Like the combat kind of stole that demo for me. And one of our friends, whose also name is Mike, so not podcast Mike, another Mike, who's a big Final Fantasy VII person, we were talking about it, and I was like, I kind of am interested in this now, but like, is this only going to be for people? Like, is this going to prey too much on people's nostalgia and not actually be that great of a game? And then he was, telling me why I should play it, and I know Greysun chimed in a lot about like why I need to play it, and I was like, fuck, I'm buying this game now. But it was like the day of that I decided, like, I can look through my messages with Greysun. I was like, do I need to buy this right now? And then I bought it digital, which is a thing I don't do. I don't buy digital games. I buy physical whenever possible. And I was like, all right, here it is. I'm a Final Fantasy guy now.
Yeah, I just want to say I pre-ordered the deluxe edition or whatever, but I knew that it wasn't. I wanted to, but I had it pre-ordered. The money just didn't come through at the time. I got the Kingdom Hearts Bring Arts because I was just like, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite franchise, so I was just like, I will take out a loan if I need to. I will get this motherfucking thing. But yeah, so I got that. But the other one, I was just like, I just can't. And I also got the Ultimate Collector's Edition for Final Fantasy 15, like that 300 whatever. Yeah, like I have that too. It's just this one just didn't work out. It's unfortunate, but
what was in the big one for Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Cloud
it
on the
was just Cloud
motorcycle.
on the bike.
Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a giant figure of Cloud on the bike. So
how much was that?
Like $300.
330.
Yeah, it was expensive.
Yeah, so it's like 200 and like something dollars just for the figure, basically. But still, regardless of that, and I knew that it wasn't going to come in the night of, and I was just like buying it digitally too. I didn't. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. So I bought it digitally, and then I literally spent that entire. I told my fiance like a week in advance. I'm like, I'm telling you, when Thursday night at 9:00 hits, I'm not doing anything until I'm done with this game. And I played till Sunday night. I beat it Sunday night. Just woke up, play games, go to sleep, play a game, fall asleep, and I just got through it in 4 days. It was awesome. Loved it.
That is like one of the only things I hate about living on the East Coast, because I love living on the East Coast. But you guys get things at 9, we
Midnight
do not.
for us.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's so aggravating.
To be fair, like, you guys get announcements like, at a fair time in the day. I wake
That's
up at
true.
I wake up at 9 a.m. and there's been like 5 announcements already, and I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
What about for you, Todd? Because Final Fantasy VII, big deal for you growing up, and then I had to like kind of me of all people had to convince you to get the game.
Well, I was really pissed when they announced it was going to be in installments. That really like just kind of bothered me, because I if they gave me like a path to when these games are coming out and like what we're going to be looking at, I probably wouldn't have been as like angry about it. But I was also kind of annoyed at the fact that like, oh, Midgar is only like 6 hours of the original, maybe like 8 if you're pushing it. I'm like, what are you going to do for that long in that game? And yeah, I don't know. And I saw everyone talking about it, and I just caved because, like you said, I buy every single game. I'm an idiot. I'll buy whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, everyone else is playing it. I have to have it.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like it.
Got to be part of that discourse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, Todd has like terrible game ADD, so like he'll be playing, I don't know, like Doom Eternal, and then also Animal Crossing's on the side, and then 5
God,
minutes
we are
later
the
it's
same
like,
person.
Yeah, right.
I've been switching between
Jeez.
Call of Duty and Persona every like 20 minutes.
Right, I got all
Jeez.
those on the side. So like, yeah, I played too many. If there's very few games that hook me like right in that I like won't stop everything else. So it's very rare that I get that. But yeah, it's a problem though because I don't finish a lot.
wait, what are you playing Warzone, Jesse? Or are you playing other modes in Call of Duty?
I play primarily just the competitive multiplayer.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
Gotta rank up. Finish that battle pass.
I can't. Fortnite unfortunately gets my money, but I can't be buying battle passes. Across
I'm
the-
also Team Warzone at this point.
Yeah.
Warzone is fun.
Warzone
Yeah.
is good. I do like Warzone.
Warzone is probably
lo-
Todd's favorite battle royale.
Yeah, it is my favorite. But I like the tournament mode. That's my favorite mode in that game.
That is
I'd
very
rather
good
just
too.
do the 2v2s. is-
PUBG is my favorite, but I just don't know enough people that play it still, and I'm just like, okay.
Do
So
you
I
play it
just
on
play
Xbox
Warzone.
or PC?
I have it on Xbox already, but I mean, I'd get on PC. I have
Well-
it. Like I can.
I don't know. I had it on Xbox. I don't know. Todd shares some of the same opinions with me here. I don't
was
know.
a
I feel like it
disaster
doesn't
for the
play
first
that
year.
great. Maybe it's
First
better
year was
now
a-
because I haven't played it since whenever.
Like
but-
houses wouldn't even load when we used to play it. Like you'd have to you'd all parachute down, and they were
It
like
was
like
bad.
a 30.
Oh my
it was
God.
a long.
Oh yeah,
buffer,
when it
like,
first came out, definitely.
If you
Yeah.
were driving in a car, things wouldn't load because the game couldn't load fast enough for you to
Yeah.
be in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I know.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy Battle Royale. That's the next game.
Yeah,
It could be. It could
100
be.
clouds drop on an island.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. In
Oh, with that
all
combat?
in all melee battle royale, that's got to be coming at some point. Someone's gonna make something that's like no projectiles for the most part, and I'll just
It's
like store
basically like
content.
Dissidia, but just with more people.
Only
Okay.
less UI, please. The UI
Yeah.
takes up 3/4 of the screen on that game.
So, jumping into the remake itself, what are some of your like favorite moments from the remake?
Oh man, that's so hard. Like, okay, here's the thing. I feel like we should.
I mean, you want to tackle the game in like
I
chronological order?
feel
I
like
could
we
do
should
that, yeah.
tackle the game through and things like that before favorite
That
moments.
works. Yeah, let's do it that way.
Before we do anything, I absolutely want to give a shout out to Keishi just like up on the plate looking down. Do you know what part I'm
Oh
talking about?
yeah.
Incredible, just incredible moment. The cat with the crown.
Wait,
Yeah.
okay.
For like
Okay.
Oh,
2 seconds,
So yeah,
and then he
so-
disappears.
So
So-
yeah, so
Right.
for Brendan, Casey is one of the party members you'll get later on in the next part.
So here's where I'm confused. Because when that happens when you're leaving as the plate's coming down, right? You're on
Yep.
the zip line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That character doesn't show up anywhere else in the remake, right? That character
Exactly.
never shows up. Okay.
No.
I was
No, yeah.
so
It's
fucking confused. I was like, what is
it's
that?
a
Who is
change.
this character? Because
Yeah, no.
in my playthrough, like, I was fine. I know some people had some issue with the side quests. I didn't mind them really because like I'm used to not that this is I mean not that I'm trying to make a cop out or an excuse for the game, but I'm used to like especially in RPGs the side quests being fetch quests or not as cool or whatever they are, but I liked what I was doing, so I did all the side quests. So when that happened and I went by that character, I was like, did I miss a fucking side quest? Did I not do something? Like did I not find someone?
But that's what's so brilliant
That's
about
so
that
funny.
moment. Is it's just like a quick hit
It's-
for fans who like know who that is, and they're like, oh, there he is, and then it's never mentioned again, and everybody else is confused. Everybody else
Yeah.
has no idea what that was.
So I stand on like two sides of the fence here with not just this but other things in the game. I feel like the game clearly has a good enough story to the point where I immediately started playing the original, and I also already own for some reason Advent Children, which is like ready to go as soon as I finish the original. So like I'm invested now in the Final Fantasy VII story. But I feel like the game does like a good job of appeasing longtime fans, a good job of telling a story without revealing everything. But also I feel like they do things that, and maybe it's good or bad storytelling. I don't know. It's not for me to give the definitive answer. It's for me to have an opinion on, I guess. But did they like do too much vague reveals or story bits that like didn't tell a cohesive story to people who didn't play the original?
Can you give me some examples? It's kind of hard to like.
So
Because my gut answer to just what you just said is no. Like I think that it's very much like it just foreshadows. It's a lot of foreshadowing in the game, especially with like cloud stuff. Like a lot, because I was on Spawnomi's podcast with Khalif, and he was just like, I don't get this, I don't get that. I'm like, dude, you gotta wait. It's like one of those things. Like it's hard because with JRPGs as a whole, you have to play through like it's kind of like a D&D group. Like you have to get through like 2/3 of the story to start getting characters backstories and things like that, because if you give it all away in the beginning, what's there to look forward to? So like with this being in parts, you get the introduction, and that there's stuff to look forward to, but it's not like they tease you, and then they're going to give you the meat later on, and when you do, you're going to be like, well, I'm glad that like I waited this long, because if you knew this in the beginning, the story would not be remotely as interesting as you progress.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would say with Cloud stuff, because a lot of people like just like don't like Cloud as a character, because he's like that edgy, like that like stereotypical edge boy. And I get that, but I think that the things that make Cloud interesting aren't particularly his personality, but his backstory. His backstory is what makes his character interesting.
Yeah. Which, now that I'm playing through the original, and I guess for like comparison's sake, I am past where the remake is in the original. I am at Mount Coral Prison.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with what seems like Barrett's backstory, kind of.
Yes.
Yes. That's where I'm at there. And like just because I'm literally can do a side-by-side comparison, having just finished that and now playing this, like Cloud in the original, at least in the beginning, is like super fucking boring and kind of like, I don't know, like I almost don't really care about Cloud's story at all. I'm more interested in like what else is happening or finding out what is happening after where the remake ends, because fuck man, like Zach, what is happening? What is going on right now? The end of this game. We'll get there, but Jesus.
Have you
We have to unpack that later for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I forgot because it's have you gotten to Nibelheim, or have you gotten to the Nibelheim backstory?
Well,
like
so
the scene with Sephiroth and stuff.
When you leave Midgar, so basically when the remake ends, which none of that portal shit happens, like none of that happens in the original.
No, that's new. That's new. We'll explain that. Yeah, we'll explain that later.
So all of that shit, and then as soon as you leave there, you go to Com. So you don't go to Nibelheim, but you go to Com, and then Cloud starts. It's like a
he explains everything. That is like the key to like not just Cloud story, the entire game. So you need like remember that bit like vividly, because that's gonna definitely come back, and that's going to like be the like that's gonna be the mind blowing like shit that happens.
I'm gonna so if that twist or whatever, that reveal has to come up, we can say it. I would appreciate it if we don't have to go that way, but if it does, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever.
They only tease they tease it in the beginning with Cloud in chapter 2, where he's having the head, can't say what's actually happening, but he's having that episode and he sees all the flames and Sephiroth, like that's like the small tease of Nibelheim that they give in this game, but in the next part where like they explain more of it, dude, it's so good.
So unless I misunderstood what the remake was telling me, when you towards the end, when you get below the lab and you're messing with the whole Genova project, I could have sworn that Cloud calls it his mother, but in the original game, Sephiroth is calling it his mother. So are Cloud and Sephiroth brothers? Is that the reveal? I don't know.
Are you just looking for us to tell you the
reveal?
No,
I don't want to know.
Just play through Final Fantasy VII or wait till part 2. That's all I can say about that.
God damn it.
Yeah, I don't know any of this stuff either, Brenden. So I'm on the same. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's so great knowing and then just seeing you guys just like, I don't know.
Okay, so I should also disclose that even though I did not play the original, I have researched everything extensively. I have found myself on wiki pages at like 4 a.m, like reading about Nibelheim and Genova, and I read through the entire plot of Crisis Core. I watched like deep dive videos. Like I am so far in this shit that I do not think I can dig myself out of it at this point.
Yeah, no. Final Fantasy VII's lore is so good.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, it is so good.
So this is what we'll do. If it has to come up, I'll take off my headphones, and then when you guys are ready for me to come back, just everyone wait.
It won't have to come up. Just how do I explain this? So another thing that which you know, Todd might not remember, or Greysun might not know, but like the people with like the numbers on their their arms. So that wasn't a bit in the original. That was in this one.
Okay.
And that's like how they were able to. I'm not gonna explain like how, but like that's how they were able to bring Sephiroth into the picture this time around, instead of like the first time you actually meet him is during that pivotal scene, or like you actually like speak to him. Like you see him throughout the game, but you don't really like see him until like the actual him until way later on.
Okay.
And the reason they did that was, which I actually found out recently, like in some sort of interview, that Kitase was he was a producer for this game, but he was the director of the original. He got that influence from Jaws. He wanted it to kind of just be like a suspenseful, vamp up to this.
Yeah.
To this. But
rising action.
Yeah, rising action. But because people already know the story of Final Fantasy VII going into the remake, they're like, well, we can't do that this time. So how can we introduce him in a way that makes sense in the beginning.
Okay.
So yeah, they do it in a way that makes sense with Sephiroth's backstory and everything like that. So it's I think they did a good job on that end.
Okay. So let's like rewind a little bit and get to talking about the game in stages. So the first couple chapters, where's everyone at with this? I mean, obviously everyone knows where everyone's history is with the game, so we know that Todd, Cam have played the original. 3 of us have not. Jesse seems to know everything because he's a much learned reader.
An enthusiast.
Yeah.
Say the least.
So I can't even remember what the first. You start off
The bombing run.
on this
mission.
train,
The
right?
bombing
Yeah.
run.
Okay, yeah. The game
Speaking of
starts off
which, even
as-
before that, probably the best cinematic opening to a video game ever. Like when that logo pops up and you just hear that music, I was just like, "Woo, chills,
good.
man, fucking chills."
music
I've seen that
is-
opening at least like 5 or 6
real good.
times, and every time I'm just like, "God damn, dude." Just in general, I just want to say, like, just in general, because I've been streaming my hard mode run of this game, but even when I like playing through it my first time around and playing it now, consistently, like at least every like 15 minutes, I'm just like, how is this fucking game real? Like, how does a game like this exist in like the quality that it is? And man, it's just so good. I think the bombing run was incredibly well done. Like almost like it felt like almost shot for shot for like not shot for shot, but like beat by beat for sure, comparative to the original. And then it was cool. Like and then basically everything leading up to Seventh Heaven was pretty new. Going through the streets and then like Cloud's episode and all that jazz. Yeah. I thought it was a solid opening.
It is like, and I'm probably gonna do this the whole time, but like comparing the two beat by beat because I'm literally like just playing through it, and it's crazy to see like what they had and what this game what the remake is, because the whole first few chapters is all, none of that for the most part is in the original. Like there's the minor, the skeleton, the framework is there, but everything else is just on fucking steroids. Like it's just a different experience. But it's weird the things that they chose to keep. Like, we go in and you like go, and it's like
I've almost lost Brenden and Todd.
Yeah,
certain
Brendan.
things aren't the same, but-
Brendan, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, you're good now.
Talk consecutively.
Is
think
it good now?
It's better.
Yeah,
It's
it's better,
better.
not great.
All right, we're gonna
Okay,
do
cool.
something here.
It's on,
We're good?
It's on
Wait,
good.
no.
It's good now.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
Weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wi-Fi, coronavirus. Deal with it. All right. So it's weird the things that they decided to like keep there, where it's just like little story things, where it's like when they're running to the first reactor they're blowing up, it's like Wedge goes and waits, and it's the same exact catwalk, and they're gonna go right, and Wedge waits at the exit, and all this stuff. But to see how much more they fleshed out the characters, especially like Wedge and Jesse, and I wanted to say James, which is not the right thing. But
Yeah. Name.
why can I not think of the other
Biggs.
character right now? Biggs,
Oh,
yeah.
Biggs.
Yeah.
It's like, for me as someone who didn't play the original, it just seemed like I'm playing a game and this is the story. But for you guys who like had come from these characters not really being a presence as they are in the remake, was that like a jarring thing to you, or like a thing you were like so excited about? Or
Yeah, for me, like now that you mentioned that, I did find it jarring, and I was trying to figure out why, or what I tried to figure out what I was feeling, because when I was playing it, it felt like a game that I kind of played already in my mind, even though I've never. Like I played the opening hours of the original, so technically I played through the story parts of the remake. But like you said, it feels like a brand new game, an entirely new experience. But in the back of my mind, I still felt like this is a story I experienced already. Like I know these characters, and I felt like I couldn't really get emotional with the characters. Like I couldn't really get too invested into like their emotions, or like I didn't want to cry. I didn't really feel intense during certain story situations. But I did like the character's personality and how they were fleshed out, and they felt like real characters to me. When they didn't feel like that in the original game. So yeah, it did feel a bit jarring, like having the knowledge of these characters in my mind already before going in. What happened?
I think for me, at least with like the thing with just like the bombing run level in general is that it's pretty widely considered to be like one of the best opening levels to a video game, because it very much like sets the tone of what that like everything that game is going to be moving forward, whether it be like the environmentalist themes like Cloud and Sephiroth. Like it sets everything on the table from the get-go, which you don't really see in most games in general. But with Jesse, like Biggs and Wedge, yeah, I never really had a connection to them that much in Final Fantasy VII. Like when they die, well, because spoilers, when they die,
Yeah.
in the original, like I was just like, oh, well, I mean, I was like, oh shit, but I wasn't like sad about it, you know?
Yeah.
They definitely felt just kind of there to fill their role and then push the main party forward, like with Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett. This time around, I think they did a better job. I would say specifically with Jesse, obviously being the main focus, and Biggs, because they give more backstory to who they are, and like the mission where you go to Jesse's house, and then like you just like think about like, yeah, when the plate falls, Jesse's parents are gone too. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's of how tragic that story is in that moment later on in the game. But and with Wedge, like I think Wedge is just like he's definitely like trying to help and do the best that he can. I just don't think they really brought much emotional awareness to him. Like I felt bad for him when he just said that like oh, I just screw everything up, I'm no help to anyone, and Aerith is just like, no, you can help people, you can do it right now. And so that I was just like, okay, yeah, cool. But I just don't think it had, just because we got those scenes with Biggs and Jesse climbing the pillar, like I think those were really really powerful. Especially like with the fist bump with Jesse and Cloud. It's like, oh man, that hurt. That hurt me. But going kind of like forward to near the end of the game, like we know that Wedge lives. We know that Biggs lives this time around. They do not live in the original. And there's a tease about Jesse's glove that like, oh, Jesse's alive. For me, I'm just like, for me personally, like just because she felt more like the leader of the three, it would feel wrong to me if she does end up living. Like we find out later that like, oh, she did survive too, and it's just like, okay, well then that kind of like takes away the emotional impact of those moments. That like when I go back to play part one, once the entire thing's out, it's just like, oh well, she survives, it doesn't matter. Like that's what I'm worried about when people are like, oh, Jesse lives. I'm like, I hope that's not true. I hope she died. I hope she's dead, because it would just takes away like some really great moments from this game. That's kind of like how I feel.
See, I took like going back to the end. I took it as did Wedge die? I thought Wedge died at the end. I thought they like his point was served. So those things took him out and blew him out a window at the end as in that building. Maybe I like just misread the whole scene though.
Maybe I.
Yeah, I don't even honestly remember. I know like they all kind of died, but I don't remember who actually lived.
Because it sounded like he went outside. Like all of a sudden, when those things blew by him, it was like the last time you see him, and then you hear like glass break, and I was like, I didn't know.
Oh, when the ghosts take him out.
Yes. Did he get like thrown out the building? Like was his he served his purpose and that was it? You know, like.
We haven't even talked about the ghost themselves. Yeah, that's a whole other.
Yeah, the ghost is a whole other thing.
The thing.
I feel
later.
like.
I don't know though. Like.
I don't know. I don't think.
Should I look
Just
this
you
up?
know. Do you remember?
I remember the scene. I do not remember if you ever see Wedge. You don't see Wedge after that ever again, right, Todd?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
All right. Well, when we get into what the ghosts
are, I think it would be wrong to assume that he's dead. I would be.
Probably.
So I looked it up and it says Biggs and Wedge survived apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how, but they do.
Yeah. No, Biggs is just laying in the orphanage where he took care of the kids and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that's why, that's the thing, like, I don't want to go on a tangent, but like I want to later we'll talk about the side quests and how, like, at least the first time going around the side quests, I like all the side quests. I like doing them and I think they're good for the game. So like for me personally, you know, we're kind of in this point now where The Witcher 3 is like the top example of like great side quests. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, oh, these are just as good as the mainline stuff, which is perfectly fair. But those type of side quests wouldn't work in this game. Like this game is meant to make Midgar feel more alive, like to introduce like more side characters that we get, like in the little girl Betty, Meryl, like those type of characters that make me care about these people, make me care about the Sector 7 slums. Like those are they did the right type of side quests, in my opinion, for the game they were trying to make.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the side quests in general, it's I mean, they are what they are. They're side quests. You don't have to complete them. So I don't really, I mean, I played them all, so I'm clearly had enough enjoyment with them to play through them all. But I mean, they by definition they are what they are. They're additional. They're on the side. They're a little accoutrement that you don't need to partake in if you don't want to. But now that I'm thinking about the side quests, there's that character towards the end before you go to Shinra. She's like in the Sector 6 slums, like talking shit about Avalanche.
Oh, Kyrie?
Oh,
Yeah.
Kyrie, yeah.
So after, I know we talked about Cat Sith. That's
KG. They pronounce it 100 different ways.
Yeah.
So when you leave the plate and that character makes a cameo, I was like racking my brain. I was like, was it that lady? And I just didn't talk to her enough or something, because they had like similar like hat or something. I was like, I don't know. It bothered me so much. Like
Kyrie
it really
is the thief. She's the one that gets embroiled with Johnny, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when you're on the train for the bombing run mission, when you get on the train full of people, after you complete that mission, she's on that train.
Huh.
Yeah, I
She's
think
just
she's
sitting
supposed
there.
to be like a main character of the game, I think. Like, and I think she's gonna be in the future entries because Square Enix announced her character as if she was like a main character in this game. So I was very confused when she wasn't in the game as like besides that one little scene or two scenes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I did just in my original playthrough, I did just get the cat in my party.
Okay.
So they're there.
Oh.
What
So you got
is
to
he
the Golden
riding on?
Saucer?
I'm right past Golden Saucer.
Okay.
I'm like, I got arrested. I'm in the prison. We got to fight some guy that has to do with Barrett's Pass, Dion or something, or Dio, someone with D, or Dine maybe.
Dine. Yeah, Dine. Dine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's.
So what do you
Dine.
want to know about the cat?
What is he riding? It's not a Moogle, right? It's like a big white thing that's like huge arms.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot of like, are
I
you
actually
a
don't know.
It's a 7 person.
I didn't play the original. I just read about him.
But yeah, he's like riding.
It's a giant stuffed toy, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. I completely derailed us from where we were. We were talking about.
We were talking about the opening levels of Final Fantasy VII.
I know. We're an hour in, and we've talked about the first 4 chapters.
No rules here.
We could just talk about what we liked about it if you just wanted to.
I mean, we can do whatever. We can do whatever. I will say that I know I know I'm surprised Todd is not speaking up more because I know Todd does not have positive opinions about this game. But I will say the Jessie mission where you go to her parents' house and whatever, I liked the presentation probably because I'm a cat person, but I liked the presentation of the cat like leading you to the door. I don't know why. I thought it was like one of my favorite scenes in the game. It like really, really fucking got me good. I was like, all right, I'm fucking here now. I'm ready to go.
There's something about that mission that bothered me to no end. And so you sneak into Jessie's house. You got to steal the key card or whatever from her father.
Yeah.
You do this whole thing where she distracts her mom with Wedge and Biggs, and you sneak in, you do everything. Then you leave the house, but you leave the back door open. And there's no way to close the back door. You just leave it open. It eventually closes on its own.
Too.
I was like, Cloud, what are you doing? We just got away scot-free. Close the door. It's a dumb thing, I know, but like it's just like I literally
my playthrough. I was like, wait, why can't I close the door?
It's such a dumb thing, but it was so annoying.
Did anyone try to click on the kitchen? Like, does anything happen if you try to go in there? I didn't try to do it.
He says like, better not or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Cloud just basically is like, that's not a good idea.
I tried. That was the first thing I did.
See, I liked that part of that mission, but I hated the motorcycle aspects of this game. Like, hated
Really?
it.
Really?
I just felt like I was smashing buttons and like,
it is
Can we get
clunky.
through this? It was just like, and then you do the spin, charge it up, all right, and like the speed didn't like, I don't know, it was just like that final boss towards the end. I was just like, oh, I just want this to be over right now.
I'm not gonna lie. I also did not like the motorcycle parts, and when you leave Shinra and you have to do the motorcycle part again, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And
well, that part's like a big deal in the original though, like, but like it's
because it's the only motorcycle part in the original.
I wish they didn't do the first one.
I mean, unless there's more in the future, but at least in what the remake covers, that's the only motorcycle part. But what really frustrated me about the motorcycle part, especially the second part, was that I died at the end of the boss. So I had to fucking do it again. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me with this motorcycle shit.
I'd be pissed.
It takes too long to charge that spin up.
Yeah.
That thing needed to be available way.
But one thing that is cool is that once you beat the game, you can always skip the mini games. If you ever go back you can skip it.
That is nice.
For like the cutscenes around that stuff, those were great. Like those absolutely. I'm fine with. I didn't need the motorcycle part. And this is when I was saying earlier that like I find now that I've played through that part of the original game, I find it weird the stuff that they decided to keep in the remake that for the original, when the original came out, a lot of the things they do in the game are really cool because at that time in real life, games weren't doing things like that, like impressive cutscenes, all these other things. Like I get it that at the time, a lot of these things were really cool and really different, and it created this big experience. But when I'm spying on Heidegger and President Shinra and Reeves and all the other people in the conference room, and I have to crawl through a very, very pointless air vent that is like a segment in itself that's way too long. I'm like, I don't understand why we're doing that.
It takes like 30 seconds. It takes like 30 seconds to get to the room.
It's 29 seconds too long, baby.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Kind of.
Way too much crawling.
There's so much in my opinion. There's so much that's cool and good in remake, but then when they take little things like that, I'm like, I don't know why you put this here. Like you're just extending the length of the game, and I don't care if the game is 10 hours. If the 10 hours are amazing, I don't care. I'm sure that's not a shared opinion by the mainstream. But
that is what you do in the original too.
I know, but so what I'm saying is like in the original, it might have been cool because it's like these are cool 3D graphics. You're crawling an air vent, like it might be cool at that time, early 90s or whenever the first one came out.
Back then, longer games were people wanted long games.
Yeah, where it's like,
has crawling in air vents ever been cool?
Die Hard, that's it.
Maybe Metal Gear Solid.
Spider-Man was okay,
but I don't know. It's just it wasn't even the fact that I went in the vent that was like so aggravating to me. It was like I'm going in this vent and it's making me crawl very slow straight, then take a right, then take a left. It's like there's no puzzle here. There's no like thing I need to figure out. It's just I need to spend time moving very slowly from point A to point B, which that was the part I was like, give me a path that I have to make a decision that is using my brain, not just hold forward until I move through.
Brendan's touching on a lot of what I had issues with this game was I felt like there were so many times where I'm like, I fucking love this game right now. All for it to be like slowed down by something I just really didn't want to do. Like towards the end, when you're in the labs, like flicking those switches over and over again, just rocking back and forth. To me, that was just like it took me out of the game. And every time I started to get into the game and was like loving it, the pace, it come to like a screeching halt. Like I'm trying to think of like examples. It was like,
the crane
robot
machines.
arms.
The crane in the cave.
Arms,
Oh my god.
Yeah, like
so
stuff like
slow.
that. Like I would have rather them just not even had that stuff in there. Or like, for me personally, I would have been cool with them shaving off like 10 to 15 hours on this game. But that's just me.
I strongly disagree. I strongly disagree. Like the arm thing, like, yeah, was that like one of the best parts of the game? Absolutely not. Like, I don't know. I feel like the things that you guys are complaining about, well, like, it's your opinion, that's fine. I just feel like that they're so minuscule in how big the game is that, like,
I think the game's so big because they're in there, though. Personally, I like chandelier jumping, like the sewage is blocked, like it's stuff that like kept on like making me stop the game and being like, all right, why am I? This isn't a puzzle that's hard to figure out right now. This is like pretty straightforward. I'm moving this robot arm over here and here. Okay, I did it once. Okay, oh, I did it again. Oh, I'm doing it again. And then with like crawling through tight areas, like we talked about before, like I feel like it just every time I kept on doing something like this, I was like, oh man, because like every time I fought a boss, I'm like, this fucking game is the best game ever. And I was one of those guys who wanted. I'm the guy who was crying because it wasn't going to be turn-based. Like, and I ended up loving the combat. Like, it was actually like one of my favorite parts of the game. But I just felt like as soon as things started to pick up, I'd be like running in circles, going through doors, flipping switches, and it was just like I'd be like, wait, what am I doing at this point? Like I forgot like where I was in the story, and like it's taking me out of it.
Like, okay, so like, okay, but outside of like those two, like the arms and then the vent, like when else does that really happen? Like, it doesn't happen very often.
I think the lab part.
The lab, it kills the pace of that section.
But okay, here's the thing. Like, okay, so you guys are saying like, oh, you don't want it to be so straightforward, but then when it's a puzzle, you're just like, oh, I don't want a puzzle either. That slows down the game.
Because it's not good. They're not good puzzles.
Yeah,
I disagree.
As somebody who loves like The Witness and plays Tetris every day, like I love having my brain itched in that way, or scratched rather. It's one of those things where it's like it's not a hard puzzle to figure out. It's like I know what I have to do. It's just about going through the motions and doing it. That's just unsatisfying in a way.
Yeah, it's like sending red across the thing to flip a switch. It like none of those like all that whole section of the game. I have to do that a few different times. It just it didn't take me long to ever figure out what the solution was. It just took me long because I was like, I got to walk back over here and then call the other team and switch parties again. And it just, I don't know. I agree with Jesse's sentiment there, where it's like I like puzzle games. I like to figure out things, and I didn't feel like the puzzling part of it ever like stroked any part of my brain that made me feel like I figured something out. It just made me feel like, why am I still in the lab right now? I want to know why Sephiroth just broke this bridge and took fucking whatever Genova is. That's
another part of it, right? Is like you're at such a climactic point in that game for them to throw a puzzle at you, which I don't mind because it gives the game room to breathe, right? You just had a very intense scene. They're dumping a lot of things on you at once. Like, slow down the pace a little bit. Like, let the party kind of talk to each other and reconvene and regroup and figure it out. But it just felt like that scene was too long for how close you are to the climax of that game. That scene just goes a little too long.
Like, I don't mind saying that the puzzle went on for a little bit too long, but I thought it was really cool that, like, oh, there's a boss fight where the first half you have to play as Cloud and Barrett, and then the second half you have to play as Tifa and Aerith. Like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
like,
I like that a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just think everything surrounding that
was not
could have been better.
I mean, again, like, like I get what you guys are saying, and like to an extent, I agree with you. Like it probably like I could say that it probably went on like a little bit too long, those puzzles. But I didn't particularly like dislike it or feel like that they were a waste of time or anything like that.
Yeah.
But because I'm right before this bit. I wanted to try and finish the game again before this, but I just didn't work out. But
Where
I'm
are
like
you
right
right now?
before this
Oh, okay.
segment, this stuff on my hard run right now. So I'm gonna think about that type of stuff when I get to it again.
But see,
I mean, it's
you go.
no, go,
Brenden.
you go. No, you go. You go.
You sure?
Yeah, yeah.
All I was gonna say is that the banter between the characters and the dialogue that they say like while you're doing these meaningless things is totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like hearing them interact with each other is some of the best parts of that game, which made some of those puzzles easier to bear
Yeah.
because you're getting constantly like little bits of character development along
Yeah.
the way.
Which is one thing I wanted to mention really quick. I like how it happens based off of like how well your health is at when you finish fights and stuff like that, but it's also something that happens as you progress through the game. Like I like how Cloud you can tell by like his dialogue after fights that he like opens up more to the group, like where he's just like, oh, it's like that was a piece of cake, I'm awesome, that type of thing. Like you guys did nothing. But then like at the end, near the end of the game, like if you win the fight and you have like good health, he's just like, good job, everyone. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, hell yeah. That like those small little details like that I really, really like.
Persona
There's
5 ruined everything for me though, because like now the end scene to every fight, I need it to be the end of every fight in Persona with the music and like one guy kneeling down and everything. I'm like, God damn, I want that all the time now.
Yeah, I mean the
Yeah, that's all-
presentation,
yeah,
the presentation in Persona 5 is like almost unmatched.
Oh yeah, its style and present. Yeah, its style is great.
Crazy. It really-
I think that this game's cinematography though might be the best. Like don't get me wrong, the God of War one shot is cool. Like I like God of War. I'm not like about it, but like I like it. But I think Final Fantasy VII Remake might have like the best cinematography in a video game. Like its camera work is absurd.
It's
Especially during
very
boss fights.
deliberate. It's very deliberate in a lot of its
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
And it's
The
very
first
good.
thing that comes to mind for me is when you're walking with Aerith across the rooftops in the slums,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, this is. It's still annoying because it has that padding stuff where you're slowly climbing through ladders, but it is an important moment where you two are meeting each other for the first, not for the first time, but you're connecting, and she's asking questions, and they're having this back and forth between each other.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, it's a nice moment, and there are other examples of areas that are someone might call padded, but kind of gave me, it just made the characters feel more relatable to me. It's when they climb up the ladder in the Shinra building. Well, you have the option to climb up the
The
stairs.
staircase.
Yeah.
So you can go the staircase, or you can take the elevator. And I think if you go in the elevator, you have to fight some enemies or something. I'm not sure. 'Cause I never.
Yeah, you do.
What
chose it.
happened, Todd? You took the elevator. What happened?
I took the elevator. It was a pretty funny cutscene with Cloud and like someone trying to come in the elevator, and he like whips out his sword right to their face. It's like a lady who's just like working, and he was like trying to get on the elevator. It's pretty funny. But no, it was super quick. I think stairs probably would have taken a lot more time.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
the staircase, it's probably like 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. You are just running up this staircase. And the beginning, they're all running fast. Like Barrett and Tifa, like Tifa's super ahead of you, Barrett's like ahead of you, and you get to like 10 floors, 20 floors, 30 floors. Barrett starts like wheezing and coughing and slowing down behind you. Tifa's like still ahead of you, but
Because she's so fit.
yeah, and everyone's like getting super disoriented. The camera even like changes a little bit too when you get close to the top. It just gets super, super slow, and Cloud even starts taking
great.
like one step at a time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, this is crazy. But the whole time they're going up, they're like, oh, it's taken so long for us to get to this moment. It's been such a long journey. So it kind of helps you like, reflect on everything that they've been through.
Yeah.
It was a really cool moment. But for the most part, I do agree with you guys that there is like a lot of moments that I feel like were padded out and didn't really help make the game any better.
I think if I didn't have to press triangle so much, I probably wouldn't have had a problem. I think that like something about that it was a weird choice to like. I wish you could just like run up the ladder and not like, I mean you can run up ladders, but like I wish you could just like press a button or something. It's way more simplistic, and like because it was like a delay every time you did it too.
It felt
Like,
clunky.
if you're talking to someone, if you're talking to someone, like you'll hold down it, and then all of a sudden it'll be like 10 seconds go by, and then they'll start talking into their dialogue and everything.
maybe it's because my PS4 is more recent because I have the Kingdom Hearts 3 PS4 Pro.
Yeah,
I didn't really.
I have an original one.
I didn't really deal with that a lot. A lot of the like you press a button and then the person's just like,
Oh, that happened to
and
me
then
a
they
lot.
begin talking. Like I didn't really like. It did happen, but like not a lot for me to be like, wow, this is annoying, or if anything like that. I don't know, maybe because I have heard that more than just from you. So I just like I don't know. I don't know.
Is that a PS4 Pro? That one?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a regular PS4. I don't know about you.
Same.
So
I have a regular. Too.
Okay, maybe it is
It's probably
a
that.
problem.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember like I think towards the latter end of the game, like talking to someone like a quest giver or like a shopper or something, like it would take like 4 or 5 seconds to anything to pop up once you hit.
That
Yeah, it was like
sucks.
you're just waiting for the dialogue thing to pop back up, and I was like, oh, this is pretty rough.
Yeah, because I have a Pro too. I didn't notice a lot of that.
Interesting.
Like
Oh, wow.
I noticed it on like a few times, like you know,
Yeah.
opening a chest or something, but I didn't notice it happening all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And like we gotta like, and also just Square Enix like pushed this console to its limits. Like
Oh, yeah.
you know, especially with like the character models that they have and everything. Like man, it's crazy. I'm curious to see how it's gonna run once it releases on the Xbox One X or even the Series X because by the time it comes to Xbox, if it does, it will.
I mean, it'll run better because Xbox can rise up.
The Series X is gonna be out.
Xbox One X is a more powerful console than the PS4 Pro. I mean, it's
facts.
That's just specs.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
So it's specifically, I noticed this a couple of times, but specifically in I think it's chapter 15. It's the one where you get the grappling hooks and you start climbing the wall.
Yeah.
You're going up
That's
to
15.
Shinra HQ.
Mhm.
There's that first scene where you're going up and you can see the city below, and it's
Oh
like daytime.
my God.
But
the
my
red sun
question
and
is,
everything.
it looks like a JPEG image. And my question is that just a
Yeah.
nod of like pre-rendered backgrounds that they were like, oh look, we used some of the old stuff, or does it really just look like a JPEG?
So I want to chime in here too because I
was just confused.
I feel like did you tweet this? I feel like you tweeted
I
this.
did.
Okay.
I did tweet this.
So,
Yeah.
the game, like overall, gorgeous. Like this game is absolutely
It's
gorgeous.
incredible. So
But
those
there-
moments stand out.
I feel like there are so many moments like that where like the setting and the purpose of the scene is like you're up on this specific spot so you can look out over how fucking beautiful this is, or here's a sense of scope of like you're up here and there's the slums. Like I feel like there's a lot of scenes and set pieces where they put you in those scenarios on purpose, but I feel like there's a lot of times where they do that and the backgrounds, like you're saying, are like not amazing. And I like was so like bewildered by that. Like I don't know why they made that choice. Because most of the game is gorgeous, but like the backgrounds like you're talking about, and then a lot of the non-main characters that you speak to, sometimes they're like just really bad animations or
Yeah.
bad models. And I'm just like so blown away why they chose to do that for certain scenes.
I think it's because they had to make sacrifices.
Yeah, and I
absolutely.
get
That's,
that.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what I landed on.
Yeah, they had to make sacrifices. Like for me personally, like I really liked that moment where it's just like, oh, I didn't really like think about it or like look into it that much when I looked out and saw all the destruction and things like that. I thought it looked great. But I didn't
I
really
did too. I did too. I'm with you. I was like.
I didn't really like
I'm-
analyze it like
It's one very specific part is all it is. Like the
Oh.
destruction part.
There's another part
Oh,
that
no,
where I noticed the
I
JPEG.
can. There's a few
count.
that.
It's specifically when you're ascending the wall, it's daytime, and you're like fighting the drakes up on like the destroyed parts of the plate as you're climbing to the top. Like if you look out and you look at like the base, not where the destruction is, but kind of just like you survey the land, it looks like they just mapped one image because it's flat.
Yep.
So there's no height to any of the buildings. It's
And
just
no
flat.
shadows. Like,
And
yeah,
like
it's a flat
maybe
image.
maybe I'm nitpicking. I just like it was something all I did was turn my camera to the left and I was like, the hell is this? And then I never thought about it again until I
Weird.
tweeted it and then moved on.
Yeah.
I
the rest of the game
want
doesn't
to
look
check
like
that tweet.
that.
I'm curious about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's
I noticed it during the mission when you're turning on the 3 lights. You're going through
Yes.
the up and
Yes.
You look down and it's
Oh my god.
And it didn't,
That was the first
it
time I
didn't
saw it.
bother me. I'm like, well, they obviously can't run that. Like, we're in a totally different section of the game, but it just looks really
I didn't even
bad.
notice.
Like, it
That-
looks like I don't know if you guys played Fire Emblem Three Houses, but the fruit carts are like
Yeah.
JPEGs
Yeah.
as well. I just reminded myself of that.
Here's
like,
where, I mean,
They push the system, so like I can't expect everything to look gorgeous the entire time.
And I mean, for me, like I'm the last, like I play so many Nintendo games. I clearly do not give a fuck about graphics. Like graphics are not where I'm like, a game is good if it has good graphics. I care about if the game is good, and then everything else is fine. I know Nintendo obviously makes a lot of like specific art choices to work around like system limitations and stuff. But for me, like Cam said at the like earlier in the episode, that opening cinematic, like that sets the fucking tone. Like this is a very, very well done, like artistic, graphically amazing. Like this is like we're presenting you something incredible right now. Like we're taking what you thought you had in your brain about Final Fantasy VII, what you wished you could play after watching Advent Children. We're like exceeding all of those things and doing something insane. So it was like, to me, when it put you in a position where you could notice those things, I was like, I don't know why they did that. Like I don't know. But it wasn't
It's its
a thing
own
to
worst
like
enemy.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing that made
Yeah.
me be like, this game sucks now. It's just like, I was like, that's weird that they're making me look at that. Because I felt like on those specific scenes that you guys are mentioning, I felt like I kept getting drawn to that. Like the spectacle is here. I can't do anything but look at this.
I think for me personally, there were three specific moments where I specifically like felt the need to look somewhere specifically for me, and it was when the plate fell and you're like in the slums and you're just looking up and seeing that missing plate, and I was just like, wow, that's fucking gorgeous. Like, fuck yeah. Second one was when you're climbing up to get to Shinra and like Barrett says, don't you ever forget this view. So I'm like, obviously I'm going to look at this view.
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, wow, that's stunning. And then the third time was when it's during a cutscene. It's just a straight up cutscene where like Barrett, Tifa, and Cloud are looking out, and it's like nighttime at Midgar.
Yeah.
And it's just like that overhead look, and it's just like, that was gorgeous as well. Like those were the only three times that I personally just like felt the need to like look out at some sort of like environment, like big expansive environment like that. But like, yeah, it's just for me, it's just one of those things like they just had to make sacrifices, and like,
yeah, of course.
they with the characters, like, yeah, it sucks that like some of these characters look like ass, but you know, on the other end, like we get Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, like all of them,
They're gorgeous.
literally glowing. Their skin glows, dog. I was just I think it was when they're like we just finished fighting a boss, and then just like you look at them and like Tifa fucking shredded, fucking glowing, Cloud's arms, Barrett's face and arms, like, are you kidding me right now? Just so good.
The main characters always look phenomenal. Like I don't think I've ever noticed a scene where they didn't look good.
I love how when you switch weapons too, like if you put like the feather gloves on Tifa, then in the cutscenes she's got those feather gloves on.
Yeah.
They look like awesome, you know.
And
Like,
the materia is all in the.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was so
yes.
cool. The only thing I didn't like it on was I didn't like that it happened to Cloud, because I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just wrong in assuming this, but like the Buster Sword is like
It's
iconic.
iconic.
Yeah, so like I would always, and I don't know if this is the way you're like the optimized way to play, but I always found myself with Cloud specifically. Everyone else I didn't care. I just put whatever I thought was the best weapon, but I would learn the ability with any weapon Cloud got, but then I would switch right back to the Buster Sword and just always use the Buster Sword.
I think I did pretty much the same thing. There was probably one other weapon I used towards the end, but I pretty much stayed with the Buster Sword.
Once I got
Yeah.
Hard Edge, I never left.
Hard Edge, yeah, I was gonna use.
Yeah, I
that was
used
the one
Hard Edge for a while because it's like the most powerful, but like I think the Buster Sword has like a good balance. It had a good balance between two, and even though I don't use Cloud much for magic, it's just one of those things like the difference was minuscule enough where I was just like, nah, I want to use the Buster Sword. So
Yeah. All right, so let's get into like the gameplay a little bit here, since again, we can
we've been
stop
talking about
whenever
stuff.
everyone wants to stop because we're over an hour. I don't care, but we
oh
can do
dude,
whatever.
I'm down to go for whatever. We haven't even talked about like the really good
anything
shit yet.
We
Like
haven't talked about anything.
we haven't talked about the really good shit yet.
I do want to make a quick comment. Someone brought up cinematography earlier, and the only other game that I can think of that does this and does it very well is God of War. I feel like when the game has a cool boss fight or a good cutscene, it does a amazingly seamless job of putting the camera behind Cloud, and like there's no cuts. It's like you're watching Birdman. It's a one shot.
Cool.
The camera's panning back to Cloud and it's behind his shoulders. And I'm not gonna lie, it happens a lot in the game. And every time it happens, it's usually like right before some shit's about to go down, and Cloud pulls his fucking sword out, and I'm like, I'm fucking rock hard right now because this is amazing. Like, I don't care about that type of stuff usually, but like it was so good.
I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake its camera work is like the antithesis of God of War. It's like it has a lot of cuts, but the cuts are perfect. Like they are amazing. One thing I want to say that like I don't know, it's just one specific thing in the beginning of the cinematic, because we were talking about kind of like the camera work earlier, that like just really satisfies me, like really gets me going. I don't know why. And it's because of the music too. And it's the part where the train is stopping and it cuts to specifically the wheels. And then you just hear the like the strings, like the oh my God, the harmonization. It feels like it's specifically in tune with the wheels stopping. And it just has this certain aesthetic that just is so satisfying to me, where like it just makes the song, that part of the song, just like my favorite part, because it just makes me think of the wheels stopping on the train. Like I don't know if it was intentional, but
I bet it was, yeah.
But it's just perfect. I love it so much.
The music is so good. Part of the reason why I wanted to play every side mission in the game is because I don't know what the name of the song is. I don't know if it's the Avalanche theme or if it's just like the fight theme or whatever, but like the song that usually plays when you get into a fight.
Oh, Let the Battles Begin.
That song is a fucking banger. And like I've known that song from before playing the game because I've just known that song. I would imagine it's a very famous Final Fantasy song, or at least famous because of Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if it comes up in other games.
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, so I mean I've heard that song many times. I don't know if anyone listens to Mega Ran, but he has a song called Avalanche, I think, that uses that song as part of the beat. So like that song is a fucking banger. Anyways,
I will say ignorantly, because I haven't played Final Fantasy VI yet. There's only one, like, okay, outside of like Last Surprise from Persona 5, because that battle theme is like god tier.
Yeah.
I'm still mad that the ambush music isn't Last Surprise anymore in Royal. That's like my one critique of that game so far.
They changed the music?
Oh, they changed it?
Yeah, if you go into like a neutral, if you start a battle neutral, like you don't ambush them, but they don't ambush you, it's Last Surprise. But if you ambush them, it's a new song.
The
And
new
it's
song
just not.
slaps, though. The new
It still
song does slap.
slaps.
It's good.
It's just no
I heard
Last
it's really
Surprise.
good. I heard it's really
But
good.
the
just
music's
different.
so good.
It slaps, but it's just no Last Surprise. But like
There should be a knob you can fucking a setting that you can just keep it.
I'm just saying, like, for me, like, I've been thinking a lot back on it, and I'm still not entirely sure, but like going into Final Fantasy VII Remake, my favorite soundtrack to a video game by far was Final Fantasy 13. And its battle music is, in my opinion, I still think is better than Let the Battles Begin. I think it's like I haven't played Final Fantasy 6, but like out of the other Final Fantasy games that I've heard the battle theme for, I think Final Fantasy 13 still has like the best battle theme, just because it's like all orchestral, and they kind of revamped that in this one. But what I like about what they did with Let the Battles Begin in this one is that they kept reprising it in different ways. Like with the when you fight the Abzu in the sewers the first time, and it's like they make it suspenseful as it's like approaching, and it's just I'm just like, dude, how do they make the same song work every time in a different way? It's so cool.
Yeah, no, the music is top notch in this. Like, it will probably end up being the best soundtrack of this year. Well, I mean, Animal Crossing, different story, but
no, it's gonna win the music awards. It's gonna win them.
Animal
Persona 5
Crossing
Royal,
has
baby.
That
Animal
5
Crossing
PM
has
soundtrack.
different songs for every hour. Ugh.
I'm not an
The
Animal
Final
Crossing
Fantasy
guy,
VII
so
Remake OST is like 8 parts. Like there's so much music in that game. Oh, but it's the way that game uses music, the way that game uses cinematography, like it blends together in like a way 5 years ago. If you told me how this is what Final Fantasy VII was gonna be, I would not have believed you. I had no faith that they were gonna pull it off the way that they did.
I honestly thought that this game fell into a dangerous place of like it is almost impossible to satisfy mostly like the hardcore fans.
It was
who
the
have, like,
impossible task.
for waiting for a long time. And I think that they ultimately delivered. I think it got received mostly positively. It sold 3.5 million the first 3 days. Like it did well. I think some people are. I've seen some people coming down from the high a little bit and, you know, critiquing a little bit more negatively and saying some other things. But I think still overall people enjoyed the game. Like I don't really subscribe to number scores personally. Like I'm not a big number score type of person. If I had to, probably wouldn't give it a 10. I still enjoyed it. I still loved it. I have way more good things to say about it than bad things. Like I loved my time with it. Clearly, I'm playing the original. Like I've enjoyed being in this world. It's not currently my game of the year. It probably will not end up being my game of the year.
Yeah, Animal Crossing, we get it.
It's tough. I don't know. I don't know if Animal Crossing will end up being it. I mean, I've already put in like 250 hours to Animal Crossing. It's like it's a palate cleanser. It makes me forget that the world is fucking garbage right now. But back to what's the matter at hand with Final Fantasy VII. So let's talk about the game itself, like the gameplay, the fighting, the missions, anything else that has to do with just the meat and bones of the game outside of the, you know, what I feel like we've talked about cinematics for an hour.
Tifa is the best combat
Oh,
I have
yes.
played in a long time.
Oh yeah.
The way her moves flow together, the way her powers work, you could stun an enemy and just keep them staggered like nobody's business with Tifa. It's incredible.
It is
I
so
just, like,
satisfying
oh,
to do
it's so
anything
satisfying.
with her. Like the sound effects of the punching and the kicking mixed with like the damage you're causing, and like it just feels so good. Like whenever I use limit breaks for any of the characters, especially Clouds, it's hard to explain, but it feels like it's crunchy. That's how I like to describe it. You know what I mean? Like when you use that the cross
slash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it feels so good to use. And I was someone who was kind of like, I wasn't sure on the combat going in, but once you got used to it and started doing the boss fights and finding their weaknesses and stuff, like each boss fight was just so different from the last and required a different
So good.
a different form of strategy. And it just like those boss fights to me were like the best parts of the game. Like I think about this game, I think about Hell House, and you know, and
Fuck Hell House.
Their boss fights you fight. And
Hold on. Playing the game on hard right now, Hell House is not the worst boss.
What's the worst one?
The fucking ghoul. The ghoul is a pain in the ass.
What is that? The train yard or what's the ghoul?
It's at the end of the it's like the halfway point of the train yard.
I did not
So
like
it's
that.
the giant ghost
So
in
it's
the
not
control.
Eligor, right? It's
the one
it's-
before that.
right. Okay, it's when
Yeah.
you get
When
to
that-
like the control room
Yeah,
at the top of the
'cause
warehouse.
because what happens is like, oh, if it's in one mode, you can't use physical attacks, or if you go in the other move, you can't use magical attacks. And like, the thing is that it's like always doing something, so it's really hard to like. As Aerith, it's like for me, I'm like, okay, Arcane Ward, Fleeting Familiar, so I get more magic damage, and then try and do Fire. I think is his like weakness, but it takes so long for it to cast because I'm doing Firaga. And then, you know, it's one of those things like depending on how much damage she takes, she'll either just take the hit and keep going, or she'll get blown back. And then like, well, that's 20 something MP gone, where you don't get to use items in hard mode if you didn't know.
Jesus.
Oh,
So
crazy.
so your MP is all you have. It was hard. It was hard. Hell House was still. Here's the difference. Like Hell House is an annoyance. It's just annoying.
Yes.
The ghoul is difficult. Like I was just like, this is hard.
See, Hell House was the only boss. I mean, I played on normal. So Hell House was the only boss that I had to play more than once. I beat him on my second try. Besides the end fight, fuck those behemoths or whatever they're called. The before you fight Sephiroth, whatever those guys are called.
The wraith? No, they're not wraiths.
No, the whispers. No, not whispers. You're talking about the three. The three.
Yes,
It's like the blue,
three
the
colors.
red.
when they form up into the big one. Is that not?
Oh,
Bahamut.
Oh.
Okay.
Counterstance. Counterstance equals profit.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I took him
Once you get counterstance as Cloud, that's all you do, and you win.
Yeah.
And then the Sephiroth fight, like
Was
I
awesome.
can't. It's
Awesome.
amazing, but I can't even tell you how many times I was like, I cannot fucking beat him because I don't have my materia set properly. And it wasn't until like try number 9 that I realized you could switch out your materia before you fought him, and I wanted to fucking kill myself. Was that an option in every boss fight that you could switch your materia before it starts?
Yeah, there's like a little menu thing that pops up.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
never
very
knew
hard
why.
to see sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard to
never
see
knew
sometimes.
that popped up. I never knew that was an option. And like as I kept fighting him, I was like, I don't want to have to fight those other things again. I don't want to have to go through this whole chapter again. What am I gonna do? And then I saw that, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I don't mean to brag, but I went through the whole game and didn't die once.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Wow. Pro
it's
gamer.
weird because Hell House, I didn't die at all.
Mm-mm.
I actually found it to be a really fun fight. But then I died a lot on the guy you fight before Sephiroth, the guy with the guns. What's his name?
Oh, Rufus.
Yeah.
Rufus. I died
Rufus
at him
Shinra.
like 2 or 3 times maybe. So but
Rufus
that was
is
still
a
like
little
one of
bit,
my favorite boss fights too.
Rufus is a little bit different because you have to fight him solo. That's the only boss you fight solo, right?
And when you fight Reno in the church for the first time.
Oh,
Dude,
that's right,
what
yeah.
a fucking cool boss fight.
Those
though.
fights
Yeah,
are
that
so
was
much
great.
fun. Like
that was
I
my-
totally wish there were more of those. Sorry.
That boss fight was like I think was the best example of just gameplay into cutscene where like Reno, like they showed in the
Yeah,
trailer, but when
absolutely.
Reno just like warps
It's so
behind
good.
you, I was
Right.
just like, let's go! It was
Yeah.
so cool.
I
Well,
will
it's funny you
say.
guys are-
Oh, go ahead, Todd. Go.
Well, I was just saying, like with Tifa, everyone's like my favorite person to use was Tifa, and like the first half of the game, I really didn't mess with Tifa at all, and I was loving using Aerith and obviously Cloud, but then like the last half of the game, all I used was Tifa, and I didn't realize her potential, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it, you know, like it was
So
like, oh,
good.
what was I doing? And this is I'm an old man at this point. I'm very dumb when it comes to games sometimes, and I was having like a good time with the game at first, and up until after the Hell House, I didn't even rank up any of my swords or anything. I didn't.
Oh,
you didn't get any of the other
I
abilities?
didn't do anything. I was just going through the game. Just, like,
you don't
playing,
need
like, yeah, right. It was like I'm like, what am I doing?
I will say I again, I don't have a lot of history with other more current Final Fantasy games, and I can't really remember what the materia system or weapon upgrade system was in Final Fantasy 15, but I just felt like for most of the game, like menus and everything was like kind of fine, but like I kind of hated going to the weapon upgrades thing. It felt so like it just felt
Old?
yeah, it did not feel modern. It felt like
dated.
I gotta click on this. It's gonna be
Dated.
this
That's just
loud,
JRPGs, man.
loud noise and like cut away to this other screen. I'm like, what? Can I just not just like set all this stuff easily? Like, why is it gotta be this whole fucking thing?
It's
to the
just like a
point where-
skill tree. It's
It takes a lot of
it's nothing.
time.
It's just like a variant of a skill tree when you play an RPG, or when
Yeah,
you're
but
like, oh, unlock this ability. It's like,
Yeah.
But I
I-
felt like it was this extra step of like production and like silliness that like I would have much preferred if it was just, and this is just like me nitpicking dumb things. I would have much preferred if it was just like clicking weapon upgrade and then just like, you know, a little table opens up and I click what I want and not this whole spinning around and all this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
like
to-
when I saw my weapon upgrade and I would see like there's just enough for like one new skill, I would wait.
I
till
would
had more. So
get a
I just
couple
didn't want to
of
like
reps
have to go through because it is a process. And you
Yeah,
have to do
it's
it
a
for every
process.
single character, right? You have to back out and
Yes.
go back in. You can't just like scroll
Yeah,
with R1 to get to the
exactly.
next. And I found
Like-
that so frustrating.
Like
My-
setting people's equipment and materia, you could just use the triggers. I forget which one, and scroll
Yeah,
through
yeah.
and fix everyone's things, no problem. But when it
But
came
not
to
for the-
weapon upgrades, I was like, why is this not?
oh,
this?
see, for me, I was much more annoyed with the materia stuff. Like when it came to being impatient, I was just like, okay, now I'm this character, because I basically would just give whenever like Barrett wasn't in the party, I'd give whatever Barrett had to Aerith. They basically kind of filled the same role for me. So like I was just like, oh, now I gotta move all the same materia over to Barrett. Oh, I'm playing as Barrett or Aerith now. I gotta move all the same materia over to Aerith now. Like that was kind of annoying. And then like I've been doing the battle challenges on hard mode, like the hard exclusive ones, and I've had to do so much materia management because like the things that I normally do in the story do not work because it is way harder than in the battle system, the battle simulator stuff. So that like I don't know, maybe it's just because I just did that last night that I was just like, man, I do not, the materia system like is cool, but like the management for it is a little bit too much that than I care to admit, or like and 7 was kind of the same way. I think the thing that makes, I don't know, people find this to be like, some people find it to be a positive and some people find it to be a negative, but the thing that was cool in my opinion about Final Fantasy VII is that you can make basically any character be whatever you want it to be with do the materia system, while this one, like, there are things where you can make Tifa more spell specific if you want, even though she's she's a brawler, but I don't know. I think it's cool that like it's more. I think both work. Like I think it works like that you can make your character whatever you want, do the materia, or you can also in 7 like it's kind of obvious that this character should fit this role, but you can change it if you like. So
I think that comes a lot from the fact that there was only 4 party members. Do you have a smaller pool of people to work with? Yeah. So you kind of gotta just.
We have what, 4 more coming?
So since you brought that up, I'll throw this in there. First of all, I want to say Tifa, fun to play with. Cloud was my favorite to play with, but Aerith I think is the best character in the game, just on all fronts. I just like her story, I like her character, I like the voice actress. Like I like everything about Aerith. Aerith is my favorite part of this game. I hope she doesn't die. I don't want to know what happens to Aerith. I'm gonna be so sad if anything bad happens to Aerith. Because I don't know what happens in Final Fantasy VII. I don't know what happens later. I texted Todd at one point, I forget what part of the game I was in, and I was like, please don't tell me Barrett dies. I'm gonna be really pissed if they kill Barrett. And then towards the end of the game, when Sephiroth shows up and stabs Barrett, I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, what?
Fun fact, in the original Final Fantasy VII, they were gonna kill Barrett, and then they decided against it.
Jesus.
Like originally Barrett was supposed to die. But I mean, nope.
How would they have done it? Did they know how they would? Had they ever announced that?
I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't want to know who dies. Obviously, I don't want to know anything if that's possible. But fuck that Sephiroth, because I didn't know what happens to Barrett. Sephiroth stabbing Barrett fucked me up. Like that scene fucked me up because I was like, I like Barrett's character because I like what he's fighting for and I like what he cares about, and I think that he is like, regardless of whether or not all of his actions are the best or right thing to do, like it's all coming from a place of like somewhere good. So like to see that person potentially die from Sephiroth, I was like, fuck no. But
for a jacked man with a gun arm, he's oddly relatable.
Yeah, I know.
And it's oh man,
I can take them off. I can take them off.
No, we'll be fine.
No, we don't have to.
No. Oh, sorry. It's interesting because like I think we should like end our discussion talking about the Whisper stuff. So I'm going to not talk about that right now. But so go on. I lost my train of thought.
I lost my train of thought too.
Well, actually, I'll bring up something that like I don't know if you guys had this issue, but it was just like I said, combat was my favorite part, but I had issues with the amount of close quarter combat in camera in this game, and I feel like the character models are really big, and I like the way they looked and they were big, but there were so many times where I was fighting in like a tight area, and the camera would just jump, and I'm like, I don't know where I am right now, and like it wasn't game breaking to me or anything. It doesn't happen all the time. But it definitely like bothered me. I thought it was weird, the choice to have so many close quarter fights. Like it's never with bosses or anything, at least I don't think off the top of my head, but it's mostly like the side, like on the way to the boss combat. But yeah, I had a little issue with that.
I had some issue with that too. I think part of it, and I wonder if this could have fixed it, or maybe it made it too janky and that's why they didn't do it. But I feel like I mean, I don't know how you guys played. At the beginning of the game, I feel like I didn't switch characters a lot during fights. I just used their abilities and stayed on Cloud or stayed on
Mm.
whoever and used abilities. Later in the game, I started to switch around more for certain parts of fights and whatever. Um, I feel like when I switched around a lot, that's when the camera really fucked me up because it would like switch to Tifa and it wouldn't be behind her. It would be like, you
Like
know,
above her head.
it would be in a weird
As
position.
close, the camera was like, how can I get from point A to point B as fast as possible?
Yes.
And it would end up with some weird cuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a modern video game problem as well.
It
Like,
is.
I feel like there are so many games. Like, I remember Spider-Man having this issue when you would like fight in a storefront or right outside of a
Oh,
busy
yeah.
street. Like, 15 was like notorious for bad camera work.
Yeah.
Despite how much I love that game, that camera, I think it's just something. It's like we haven't really figured out cameras in close spaces. Like, it's a tough situation, especially when you have control of it and the camera's like, I don't want to go over here. I don't fit over here, and
Yeah.
it gets janky.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
Square Enix is just known for having janky cameras in their games. Like Kingdom Hearts from the very beginning, always, like I love like Kingdom Hearts 2 is my favorite game of all time. The camera is not great. It's the one. It's like if I had to criticize anything about that game for me personally, it would be the camera. So I think it's more of a Square Enix thing. More or less. Like obviously other games can have camera work, but like when I played Final Fantasy VII Remake and I had my first camera issue, I'm like, good old Square Enix with their cameras.
I
I
think the
will
only
say.
problem.
Oh, go ahead. No, go.
I was gonna say the only problem with I guess it's not really a camera issue, but there was a part when you're fighting I think it's like a mini boss maybe, but you're on a circular platform and you're fighting like the snake thing that's flying around, and it's really difficult to hit it because no one
Leviathan.
really has powerful like wind
Yeah, aerial
magic
combat
abilities.
was a
Is that
little
what it's
off for
called?
me in that too.
It just took such a long time. The flying enemies in general, I think, were pretty annoying because you couldn't physically hit them unless they were like really close to you.
You had to be
And
under them basically.
yeah,
And-
it was just it
And
didn't
some
really
spells
work.
have
I
a
feel like
delay on them.
Yeah.
Like you would cast arrow,
Yeah.
and it would take a second for
oh
arrow to
yeah,
appear, and by the time
Yeah,
it would
that was really
appear,
annoying.
the enemy would be gone. I
So I'd have
found
to like
that a
jump with Cloud and hit it like once at a time, like pew, pew, pew,
Yeah.
until it came down. I don't know, camera work. I didn't really have any issues. I felt like when you switch between characters, it was pretty snappy, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't notice it.
Well, I will
Yeah,
say.
It doesn't
go
happen
ahead.
often. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
often, but it definitely happened like, a fair
There's so
like
much going on though. I get it. Like I get.
Yeah.
Like, like I get. It seems like a hard thing to like really make work well.
And not for nothing, I don't think I've ever played a game that has this specific type of like fight combat system in it.
yeah.
So it's doing something I would argue that's pretty new and different, and I don't know if revolutionary is the word, but it's definitely very different and very cool and very, I think, overall executed well. I will say, to like kind of pick apart one of the little nuances of the combat system that I really loved was, especially I noticed it a lot at the beginning because like I said, I was more so playing as Cloud and using abilities from the other people. When you click, I think it's R2 and L2, when you're using R2 and L2 to just go to someone's ability and not switch to the character, and the camera like slows down and everything's in like bullet time, it's in like Matrix
Great.
mode. I don't know why I fucking loved that so much. Like I just loved it slowing down and like everything was slow, because not only did it look cool and feel cool, but I feel like that was, and again, this is just me saying this. I don't know if this is what their intention was, and if it was their intention, they're fucking geniuses. But it made me feel like, okay, for a game that is wasn't originally a turn-based combat, and for a series that's normally turn-based combat, this slowdown and this chance to like think about my next step makes me feel like it's turn-based. So it like let me get a little bit of that turn-based fix. So I did that a lot, where I like would pause. Like I wouldn't be quick to my decision when I switched to a trigger. I would like hit L2 and like think about what's going on in the battlefield and be like, do I need to heal someone right now? Do I need to attack? Like what do I need to do at this moment? And it would give me like a moment to think without like pausing the game. So I never felt like I was taking myself out of the action, and instead gave me a feeling of like, this is I'm the captain, I'm the general, and these are my battle pieces, and I'm like, trying to make these decisions like a turn-based RPG is. So I like loved that little addition to the combat. It like was probably what made me love the combat so much, was that it could be fast and crazy and I'm fucking people up with whatever attacks, or it could also be I'm slowing it down. I'm thinking I can't take too long because everything is still moving, just at a very slow pace, and if I wait too long I'm still going to get hit or take damage or die or whatever. So it was like a very good balance of, here's a chance to make some decisions, some critical decisions that could really make the outcome of this fight. Because in boss fights that I was like, when it came down to the wire, sometimes that was like the deciding factor of like, I'm switching over here to think about what I need to do right now before I die. I don't know. That was like what made me love the combat so much.
It makes it extremely accessible.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like like my roommate, for instance, like never played a JRPG in his life, picked this game up because we watched a couple trailers together and he was really hyped on it. And like watching him play, that's exactly how he plays. Like he like everything's slowed down. He's like, and I'm like, oh man, you can shortcut, you could do all these things to make it go faster. And he's like, no, like this is my breathing time. This is my time to assess and figure out. And I'm like, you know what? As somebody who is not used to these kind of games, like hell yeah, that's the fact that he has that option is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, aside from accessibility, it offers varied approaches to the combat, which I think is in itself really cool, to have just multiple ways for people that want to play it different ways to enjoy it. Yeah, I don't know. But other things about the gameplay in specific that anyone want to nitpick or praise or anything at all?
I'm trying to think.
Wow, the gameplay is pretty top notch.
The gameplay is good. The gameplay and story is what made me like fall in love with what's going on here.
Yeah. I mean, the gameplay is like one of my favorite gameplay systems.
Like it takes the best of 13, which is the combat system I really enjoy, and a little bit of 15 and a little bit of Kingdom Hearts. It kind of makes this pseudo turn-based / action JRPG combat. And I think it's a really, really good mix, and it's so fluid.
Yeah, it's very fluid.
Like I would pause the game to see them slow down, just to look at them, just look at the characters going around, like looking at the enemies and how they're moving really slowly, and the particle effects and swords and like the gunshots. It's just like extremely cinematic, and somehow you still always have enough time. Like they're still moving, but they never really. I don't think they can actually hit you unless some big attack is probably like launting towards you or something.
Oh, yeah. You can definitely get
hit.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I've never paused it that long, but it still feels like you have time, but you're also kind of rushed a little bit.
I will say, so I don't know where you guys stand on this, and this is kind of like outside of Final Fantasy VII, not just Final Fantasy VII agnostic, but I kind of like this like revolution of photo mode in games. And I think part of that is because it's easily integrated with social media. You can just share like cool screenshots or whatever from when you're playing games. Like Spider-Man for PS4, I have a lot of problems with that game, but I love the photo mode, and I spent probably most of my time in that game like taking cool pictures. I didn't take a lot of pictures in this game. I don't even think there's a photo mode. I have no idea.
Not.
No.
But I still took some screenshots. But I do find myself taking screenshots a lot in games now, especially because all 3 modern consoles have that quickly as an option to take a screenshot of something. But I kind of hope that the evolution of photo mode in games, and I don't know where any of you stand on photo mode, if you even care. I'm sure most people probably do not care about photo mode in games, but especially in a game like Final Fantasy VII that is so gorgeous and is so cool, I feel like a weird thing that I would love to see in specific games, and I doubt if it would ever happen, but like if there was a multiplayer mode in Final Fantasy VII Remake that wasn't 2 people playing the game, but it was 1 person like during your combat, like being able to be in a free roam camera taking screenshots, I think that would be kind of fucking amazing to like capture like cool shots of the fight going on. I don't know.
Even just like a replay system.
That would be really cool. Yeah. I've seen like they released like official screenshots, and there was one specifically where that was in in the middle of combat with Tifa and Cloud, and it looked so fucking cool. I shared it on my timeline. I was like, this has me so fucking hyped. And I'm not really big into photo mode. Like this was the first game where I was just like, man, if there was a photo mode, I would definitely like use it. I also like Spider-Man was also the first game where I really tried out the photo mode and had a fun time with it. But yeah, no, like definitely it's definitely a game that should have a photo mode, and I'm really surprised it doesn't, because like with Final
It's
Fantasy
gorgeous.
15 having such a big focus on like taking photos and stuff like that in that game. And I know that like Prompto was like as a character was big into photography and stuff like that in that game, but it still would have been cool if they brought that back with 7 Remake.
Did God of War have a photo mode?
They
Not at
added
launch.
it after.
I think they added it after.
Yeah, not at launch.
I had already
'Cause-
platinumed the game, and they were like, photo mode.
Because with Final Fantasy VII, like I wonder if part of the reason why, besides the fact that we just need to get this game out because it's been a long time and people want this game, I wonder if like part of that decision making goes into like a lot of, especially in Final Fantasy VII, it seemed like a lot of the cinematography, cutscenes, gameplay, a lot of the stuff was like planned. This is how we want the player to see this, and we don't want to like jeopardize the delivery of these scenes in any way. So I wonder if that like plays a role in those types of modes being added.
Like if you were to take the photo mode and just like rotate the camera and zoom in on the JPEG Midgar.
I think another part of that is that there are a lot of companies out there, but like Square, I think, is one of the top ones that is so precious about their characters that they don't. And maybe this is just me like remembering old Square and Square's loosened up, but like they don't want their characters in like to be memed essentially. Like Cloud is so precious to them. And like, yeah, they do a lot with Cloud in this game that is like funny and charming and whatever. But I feel like, and like maybe I'm just thinking back to like earlier days where they were like, oh, they're memeing our characters or whatever. But I think they are still pretty precious with their characters. And photo mode opens up a lot of weird shit when you start taking photos of your characters.
Kingdom Hearts 3 had a photo mode and people were uploading the strangest
That's
scenarios.
what I'm saying.
Because you were able to place like random Kingdom Hearts characters with other random characters and like scenarios, like a scene setup kind of, and people were just making the weirdest shit in there. But I was actually surprised that they didn't put a photo mode in this, because they also put one in 15, but they kind of incorporated it into the narrative. So maybe we'll see one like in part 2 or something if they decide to.
Yeah, I wish Square would have loosened up the reins when it came to Cloud and Smash, because 2 songs, come on.
Oh,
now.
the music.
There's fucking bangers, 2 songs. Stop it.
I was
now.
half expecting after Remake that they were going to add some of the remake tracks into Smash.
Nintendo wouldn't
but
say no to that. There's
I
no
know,
way they would
I
say
know.
no to that.
Didn't Dragon Quest get more songs too?
Dragon Quest got
every
the
character.
orchestra, 2 orchestra songs that the PS4 version does not have.
There are
Or the PC
characters.
version either.
There are games that don't have character or stage representation in Smash that have more songs than fucking Cloud does.
That's
so
that's
aggravating.
Square. Like apparently like Sakurai
weird.
Sakurai had to really pull strings just to even get Cloud back in Ultimate. So I'm not gonna.
I'm shocked that I'm shocked that Cloud ever made it to the roster of Smash. I'm shocked that they were able to get him back in this. Not because
I'm shocked that any of those third-party characters remain in Smash.
See, I don't.
It's wild.
I don't know.
Some of them, not like Sonic.
I don't know what the dealing is behind the scenes of how it gets paid out or whatever. But like, if I'm a video game developer, like I'm sorry, especially at this point with Ultimate being the best-selling fighting game of all time, I want my character in Smash. Like, Joker's in Smash. That game is not on Switch, and it's probably never coming to Switch.
That's true, but that was also for Persona 5 Scramble.
No, I mean, so Smash is like my baby. I am deep in Smash, in Sakurai, and what goes into characters being added and all that stuff. But I'm saying as a third party developer, I would 100% want my character to be in Smash, because you're literally Dragon Quest 11. Granted, there was definitely there was people benefiting on both sides at Nintendo and at Square, because it was being published by Nintendo in the US and I believe in Europe too. So like Dragon Quest 11S doing well benefited Nintendo because they were publishing it in the West. But when Hero got added or announced for coming to Smash, all of a sudden Dragon Quest 11S was the #1 game on Amazon. You know what I mean? Like the power of Smash is definitely a real thing. And I'm sure if you go back and look, I'm sure that after Joker got revealed at the Game Awards, I guarantee the Persona 5 sales spiked after that.
Smash,
sure.
I'm not denying anything like that. It's just with Square, like you could say that Cloud. I in my opinion, I could confidently say that Cloud is like top 5 most iconic, top 10 at the very least, the most iconic video game characters of all time. Is at least like the most iconic like JRPG character. That Square wants to, like what you said, like Square wants to make sure they want to like take care of that character as much as they can. And maybe, and there might be more to it than that, but I don't know. I feel like just trying to think about it in Square's perspective, like they just want to be as delicate as they can about it. I don't know, because like with Dragon Quest, even though Dragon Quest like it like kind of made JRPGs for what they are today in a sense, that it's just not as popular, or like they're like those characters aren't as iconic as Cloud in the West, in the West.
Dragon Quest is like
in a worldwide perspective. I'm saying,
and is JRPG in Japan, like
yes,
Dragon Quest.
Yes. I mean, in
the
a
other
worldwide
difference
perspective.
is Hero is named Hero for a reason.
Yes.
Cloud Strife is is iconic, as like, even though there are plenty of other Final Fantasy protagonists, there's only one Cloud Strife.
Yeah.
Whereas in like Dragon Quest, Hero is just the he just
character.
looks different in every game. He's still the silent protagonist.
Yeah.
But oh man, I don't know. I love Smash Bros. That's my other thing.
I think I think it might have just been technical limitations. Like when it comes down to it, they probably just didn't want to do it because they couldn't. I don't know, because I think Dragon Quest 11 had a... Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
No, I know. I'm just happy that you pulled it back in. That was like a 20-minute shit.
I was thinking, I'm like, where did we start with this?
Speaking of photo mode, you know how we complained about those robot arms earlier?
Yeah.
So
It leads to the best part of the game, which is wall market.
Right,
False.
the honeybee. Oh man,
False.
like I was.
We even talked about that.
It leads up to the best part of the game up until that point, which is the only time pressing triangle in the game is satisfying, and it's when you have the option to high five Aerith. Yes.
Is it an option?
I think it's an option.
No,
or
I think you have to do it.
I pressed it right away, but I didn't know if you did.
No, that
if
was
you didn't
genius
press it.
game design.
It was
That was
great.
genius game design.
That's the
You
only
have to
time.
hold a button to have Cloud, who doesn't want to clap hands with someone, clap hands.
That might be like one of the few times in a game where I feel like the game makes you press a button to develop the character. Like that makes you develop Cloud's character.
Press F to pay respects. Press triangle to develop character.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think every beat in Wall Market, every moment was just so much fun for me. Like the whole Coliseum bit where you're fighting with Aerith, and then the Final Fantasy fanfare music, and the Hell House, and the whole dress thing, and Don Corneo. Like it's all just like that. Like you just played the original. Like Wall Market was 2 screens, wasn't it?
Yes,
Like
and I meant to ask,
a few minutes.
Is the Honeybee Inn somewhere you could have went into? Because I didn't go into it in the original. It like I didn't go inside. Is there a dance scene that I missed?
No.
All right,
that's all.
So then I must have just not gone back to it when it was.
And
open
speaking of
for me
which,
to go into.
the Honey Bean segment is the best part of that game.
It is.
I can agree with that.
It was good.
The part where you go around the alleyway of the honeybee and you find the orphanage woman, like in the bee costume, just like smoking a cigarette, and she's like, "Hey, could you not tell the others about this? I'm just trying to be a dancer." And you're just like,
some money.
You're just like, hell yeah, and then you like leave, and there's like nothing in that area for you to do other than have that small conversation with that woman, and then you just bounce.
Yes.
I got lost so many times in there though.
I did get lost in Wall Market a lot. I feel like I never remembered where to walk.
Wait, okay. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't. I was away for a second. I don't know if Jesse brought it up. So one really cool, funny.
I really hope
thought
I really hope he brings up the same thing. I really hope you do.
Okay, I hope I do too. So like, so in the previous chapter when you're like helping everyone in this. Okay, it is. Okay, it's
I
the
mean,
same
the
thing.
orphanage woman.
Yeah, the orphanage woman. She's like,
That was good.
I was just like, oh, that's where you're
Okay,
going.
yeah.
That's a great reveal. That's so good.
She's just like in some random alley next to the honeybee. I'm like,
Smoking
what
a
are you doing
cigarette,
here?
like just chilling, like
That's
oh.
like the only side character that has like a cool little arc, I think.
Well,
At least one that I remembered.
little Betty, she's wanting to get
Johnny?
everyone happy
What
and
about Chauncey? What's that guy's name? Chauncey?
Chadley.
Who does it?
Chadley.
Chadley?
Sadly.
Oh,
Wait.
but hold on. So back to the honeybee and stuff. Like I only cried one time while playing this game, and it was the fucking honeybee in segment because it was that perfect. It was perfection.
It was my only criticism of the honeybee scene was that I was trying to do the dance segment like perfectly, but I kept watching the scene and missing the
same,
part
Yes.
exactly.
because I was like, this is incredible. I have to watch this, and it's just like X flies by, and I'm like, shit.
Is there an easy way to go back and play that, or do you have to like replay the whole chapter?
It's
It's
just
chapter
chapter
select,
select,
yeah.
All right, the game's trash. It's a
That's
5.
one thing. Yeah, I wanted to talk about things soon, like things that I personally like have gripes with about the game. But yeah, no, the Honeybee in segment was awesome. Andrea Rodeo is such a cool like new character that they brought in. All three of them, like Madam M and Chocobo Sam. I hope we see them later somehow. I don't care. Like I honestly want to see those characters again. But yeah, and then also like Chadley. I really like Chadley. It seems like some people on the internet like hate Chadley. Some people love him. And
He's easy to hate. He's just like a dumb.
I like to think of Chadley as Hope if he didn't like get his life ruined in Final Fantasy 13.
So do you know about the secret cutscene you get with Chadley?
No.
No.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it for Cam because if you beat all the hard mode challenges, you get an extra scene with Chadley.
Last one. I have the last
Yeah,
one.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but there's an extra scene with Chadley that kind of reshapes your entire perspective on him.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up after because I'm definitely not beating those
it's
challenges so
worth-
hard.
Right.
So I'm just gonna look it up because I don't know if I'm gonna beat that last challenge. It's one of those things like I want to get the platinum for this game, and I don't really care about platinum trophies. I only have one, and that's for Spider-Man PS4 because it was easy. But I want to get the platinum for this game because I really love this game. But like I found out that because like the last challenge, you basically have to fight all the summons again. And
In a row, like in one fight.
No, so it's like Shiva, then it's
Leviathan,
then it's Ifrit and
Bahamut.
No. Sorry, it's Shiva, then Fat Chocobo, then it's Leviathan, then you have to fight Ifrit and Bahamut at the same time.
Bahamut summons Ifrit like during the fight, and you have to deal with both of them.
Yeah,
What about Fat Chocobo? No Fat Chocobo?
You fight this the Pride and Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is like I was like looking up like okay, like how do I beat this? And they're like, oh, you need 2 HP ups for each character. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna take this.
No.
So
Going back to the honeybee though, because I want to bring this up before like we get off of that. My son was like literally he's like 3.5, and he was like in tears that like Cloud was gonna wear a dress, and then all of a sudden when Cloud wasn't wearing the dress anymore, he was in tears that Cloud couldn't wear the dress anymore, and he was like, but I like him in the dress. It was like amazing.
Also,
the funniest thing, man.
I don't know if you saw, but the dance segment like syncs perfectly with Eye to Eye from the Goofy movie. I'm like literally yes, it is perfect. It's like something that's already perfect made even more perfect because they added Eye to Eye from the Goofy movie. It is amazing.
I would love. I love Persona 5. I haven't finished it, but I love Persona 5. And I am so tempted because I love rhythm games. I'm so tempted to get the Persona dancing
They're
game.
not good.
I've heard they're not good.
I played with both of them. They're not great.
That's very disappointing.
I heard they're not good because they don't have a story. But if you like to like just listen to music and like do the
I don't know.
stuff,
The
you can.
remixes of the music are really good, but I think the rhythm game itself is kind of just lame.
Okay.
I played the demo of Persona 5, whatever it's called, Night Dancing in the Sunlight,
Dancing
whatever.
in Starlight.
And
It's hard.
Yeah, I don't think the gameplay itself was that fun.
Okay. Then I probably wouldn't.
So, and
The
I like
music
rhythm
rules
games
though.
a
It's
lot.
worth looking at the remixes.
Okay. If I see it like for super cheap, maybe I'll scoop it up then. But
Yeah, I think
YouTube
they're each like
soundtrack.
$20 now. Like you can get
I
Yeah, they're on
would-
sale right now.
I would love if they did a like DLC expansion of just more honeybee dancing. That would be fucking amazing.
dude,
I'd
Final
buy
Fantasy 7 dancing in
That would
honeybee,
Dripping
pay
with
for
honey. I don't know.
dripping with honey.
Dancing under the rotting pizza.
Dancing under the rotting pizza.
Yeah, so some of the issues that I have with this game, it aren't really things that like come out just the first time you play through it. It's more just like its replayability. Like the chapter select is cool, that's fine. Like, but there are some things that they did that I found really irritating when going back through. I did like. So you know how there's like the discoveries and then there's the actual side quests.
Mhm.
So at the end of chapter 14, if you do all the side quests, you find like this note from the old woman. You know what I'm talking about? Kyrie's grandmother.
Yes.
And you get the
The
second
guardian
elemental
angel of the
and you
slums.
get the second elemental materia, right? And I found that out after I beat the game. I didn't know that you got a second one because I was watching my friends like stream. I was like, "Where'd you get a second elemental materia? Like that's super useful." And I look it up, and it's just like, "Oh, you have to go through all the side quests." I'm like, "I did go through all the side quests," and then apparently they count the discoveries also as side quests, and I missed one.
Okay.
So I went back and did that discovery, went back, and then in chapter select, went through this entire chapter where with the power lights, with the power lamps, just to get this. It was for the fat chocobo material.
Yeah.
Just for that one thing. Go back to chapter 14. Go over to the avalanche wall to try and get the note. The note's not there. You have to redo all the chapter 14 side quests, even though I already done them. I'm like, fuck
Oh
that.
my
Ugh.
god.
Yeah, no thanks.
Are you kidding me?
So
Oh,
okay,
no.
so that makes sense then. So I care about achievements on Xbox. I do not care about trophies at all. Like I have zero commitment at all to trophies. I mean, I barely play PlayStation to begin with.
Same.
But as I was going through, I was like, oh, whatever. Like I'll get trophies like as I'm doing them, and if there's things that I'm already doing, I will get them and do them. And when I started doing all the side missions, I was like, well, I'm gonna just get them all at this point because I've done all of them, and I'll just get this trophy. And then when it never popped up, I was like, what the fuck? So it must be tied to those discoveries then?
Yeah, you have to do all the
Oh,
discoveries.
Fucking damn it.
Yeah, it's dumb. And then also like having to replay through all the chapters to get all the dresses. I'm just like, I don't want
Yeah,
to do
no,
this. It's more of the trophy stuff that they, not really the game itself. Like the replayability, that's fine. Like, but like just how the way they did it for the trophies, I'm just like, this is stupid. Like I do not want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because I got the trophy for doing all the side quests once I did that one discovery. But like it even shows when you get to those chapters, like it shows that you've done them, but it like resets them like with the green bar. But then on the bottom there's like gray, and it's like, oh, there's a check mark, and I'm just like, I've done this. Why do I have to do it again?
Fuck that.
It's dumb.
Yeah, when I looked up that there was like other addresses you could get for the honeybee stuff, I like looked up how to do it, and I was like, I am not doing any of that to get different dresses. Like I do not care. Because
and like
if you
right
answer Tifa differently, like she's in a different dress too, right? Like that's all that stuff.
So
yeah.
So yeah, oh my god. So the first time I went through, I was just like, oh, wear something mature, you know, and then I replayed the game, chapter 3. First off, you have to do all the side quests to get this discovery with Tifa at the end, and then you can choose. But if you don't do that, she just verbatim does the mature option. I'm like, so you're telling me I could have just chose anything else outside of mature and I would have been okay. And then I just kept playing through, like didn't have to worry about the side quests. And I could have
that's annoying.
Oh my god, so dumb. It's just the trophy stuff that like really irritated me with how they did the chapter select stuff. But I think like even though it's not like technically, it's technically a new game plus how they did the chapter select stuff. That's fine. Like, it's definitely a challenge, and it really does show how intricate the battle system is. Like, if you really want to talk about see how great the battle system really is, you should give it a shot and just play through the game on hard and just ignore the side quests. You don't have to do them again, and just go beeline it through the game. It's great. The battle system's really good.
That is probably the thing besides the story, because again, I'm really invested in the story at this point. That's the thing that I miss now that the game is done. I did like the combat. The combat is what pulled me through that game, even when there were points where I felt all right, it's dragging a little bit. There's some extended periods of time where I don't want to be doing, walking through a vent or telling Red to go anywhere.
And also, shout out to I really liked the Leslie bit in chapter 14 when you go back to the sewers with him.
Yeah.
I really liked his
Yeah.
character. I really liked him from the beginning. And I hope that we see him again. I feel like that he's one of the other new characters that we will see later on.
His story felt very much like setup.
Leslie.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feels like something that'll pay off later.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I lost what I was gonna say because my headphones messed up for a second. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know what I was just gonna say.
Can we get into these whispers now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
should
Let's talk about the whispers. So for those that don't know or aren't really interested in playing the game, these whispers, these are these spectral beings that are flying around everywhere and all that jazz, that they basically try and make sure that the course of destiny is going through its courses, that everything is fixed, this person meeting this person is fixed and things like that. And when you play through, this is it's on the ground level, it's something to make the remake fit for new players and to kind of make it so that anything moving forward to the next parts, anything could happen. We're not playing by the original's rules anymore. Literally anything can happen. And they kind of tease these things throughout the game, in the in the original, Cloud was straight up going to do the second bombing run for Sector 5. In this one, they decide, no, you're not doing it. And then the Spectrals came and attacked the slums to get Jesse injured to make Cloud go. That was the reason why that happened. And when Barrett gets stabbed by Sephiroth, they're you're not supposed to die here. So they brought him back to life. So there's a lot of things that you get more out of if you know the story of the original. At least the first part in Midgar, you get more out of the whispers in that sense, for sure.
Do the whispers are and if it's a crazy spoiler, don't say anything, but do the whispers ever show up at all in the original?
No.
Okay.
No, they're completely new.
Okay, so my question. Okay. Go. No, Greysun, go. Go.
Well, I was just gonna say that the way I've heard someone explain it is they're almost the spirits are kind of fans of the original Final Fantasy VII, where they are trying to.
It's a meta commentary.
Yeah, where they're trying to literally make sure that the narrative of this game matches what happened in the original game. So if anything happens, Barrett death, you talked about earlier, pretty much as anything, the spirits will show up because oh, this cannot happen. We have to make sure the original plot stays the same.
That's kind of amazing.
I think Jesse knows more.
How
about this
how
stuff.
deep are you guys on these theories about the whispers?
I don't know.
There's some really crazy shit out there.
So-
Yeah, well, start bringing them up, and I'll tell you for me personally, if I've heard them.
Okay, have you heard that Sephiroth is in fact Sephiroth from Advent Children coming back in time?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
So it is a
Yes.
different version of Sephiroth because that's the only time he has the black wing,
Yes.
and this
Brenden.
Sephiroth has it.
Is that
Have
why
you
that
heard-
feather keeps showing up?
Yes.
It's crazy.
So have you heard that the Whispers? So Sephiroth is back in time to make sure that he wins this time. He has
Yes.
become one with the life stream. He understands what happens to him, and so the Whispers exist solely to counteract everything that Sephiroth does. This new version of Sephiroth. So like the scene where Cloud, you talked about it with the bombing mission, like the Whispers make Cloud oversleep so that he's late to seventh heaven to stop the Whispers, and that's why Jesse gets hurt.
Yeah.
Because the Whispers literally made Cloud sleep in a little bit, so he would be a little late to seventh heaven. Jesse gets hurt. He goes on the bombing mission. The very first time you run into Sephiroth, when it's on fire and it's teasing Nibelheim,
Yeah.
and he almost misses Aerith, and then the Whispers show up and start swirling and
Yeah.
literally make sure that Cloud meets Aerith in that moment, because Sephiroth was trying to stall him earlier, because Sephiroth is from the future and knows everything that is happening. And
Yep.
when I learned
He's
this
just like
information, my mind was blown. And it goes deeper than that.
Yes.
So they talk about that subsect of Avalanche, that those are the first group of Avalanche people. They come in during the Jesse mission,
Yeah.
and they like save Wedge. So how much do you know about that? Because apparently in like an offshoot mobile game, and this is, did you prepare yourselves for this?
Okay.
Do you
I
know
don't know
who
about this.
runs Avalanche?
Who does?
Do you know who runs Avalanche, like the whole
Wedge?
organization? Rufus Shinra. It is revealed in this. I told you I've watched a lot of videos. I've learned some shit, man. I don't know if that will come up at all, but that is a side piece of information that I
So
learned.
Shinra's the head of Avalanche, which basically like he let everything with Cloud and Barrett and everything happen so that he could become the president of Shinra.
That's what I'm assuming.
Oh my god.
That would be wild.
Again, this is like me grasping a lot of information and then holding on to it without the proper context for a lot of this stuff. So as I spit it out, somebody start connecting pieces, because there's a lot of weird shit.
So yeah, I mean, because that makes a lot of sense too, though, because Rufus doesn't show up until like later, and you know, we know that Barrett and like Jesse and them are a subsect of Avalanche, but we never hear anything from anyone else except for the mayor that we find out later. So it's like where is the rest of this Avalanche group you guys are talking about? So now it makes so much sense. Like, oh my god, that's wild.
Not for nothing, when Rufus shows up in Remake, doesn't he already know that everyone is Avalanche? That is Avalanche?
Mm-hmm.
That's on the roof? Doesn't he already know they're all Avalanche?
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like you would know that just by the news
homework
alone. Because remember they showed the news.
Listen, I'm just trying to put it together. I'm just trying to figure it out.
No, that'd be cool. No,
shit,
like you might be onto something. I just think that like they made it a big deal, Shinra, about Avalanche, that he would know, being the president's son.
All right, what point of the game in the original do I need to get to for my mind to be blown, or is it not until the end? Todd said I need to get to the
There's a big part,
city,
like,
or
there's a big
Forgotten City.
When you get to the Forgotten City, that's where things definitely like
something happens there. Yeah, like
but no, and that also makes sense because they don't talk at all about like Shinra, like President Shinra dying. Like Rufus like didn't care, like, you know, like they don't go about it at all. So it feels like it was planned. Like it feels like he knew this was going to happen in some way or another, and that's, ooh man, that's wild. If that's
You are right. They don't show anybody reacting to him dying.
If that's true, oh man. I hope you're right. I hope that's right, Jesse.
Hold on, we got more.
Oh, okay.
So, this one's not really like a theory, but So in the original game, supposedly, I haven't played it. Rude is in the original game, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rude has a crush on Tifa. That's like kind of a thing that they
Yes.
go for.
Oh,
And like
yes.
apparently in Final Fantasy VII, he won't attack Tifa if she's in the battle with him until she's the last party member left, and he has to. And they kind of tease that with in Remake when he pulls the helicopter away from shooting her when she's running up to save Cloud at the top of the Sector 7 plate or whatever. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Like him
Yeah.
and Reno were in the
I
helicopter,
remember
and
the
then
one you're
Rude,
talking about.
like pulls it away, and then Reno was like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "Finger slipped" or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly that's like a nod, like Rude has a crush on Tifa.
Yeah.
And I think he like nervously pushes up his glasses a little bit.
Yeah,
too,
there's something like
or
that.
something. Like
I think.
there
I
was
mean,
something else.
so regarding the combat
very
thing,
subtle though.
yeah, regarding the combat thing, is that the case if you play as Tifa as well? Because I don't think it is.
I'm talking about in the original game.
Oh, in
not
the
in
original game. Oh, okay.
Apparently, if she is in that battle, he will not attack her until she's the last party member left.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've fought Rude yet. He's showed up in the original, but I don't think you fight him yet.
I don't know. I haven't
Probably
played the
not.
original, so this is just going by things I've heard.
I'm sure you do fight him because the Turks show up constantly in the original. But like the Rude fight in the church doesn't. The Reno fight in the church doesn't happen. The Rude fight at Sector 6 doesn't happen. Like none of that stuff happens. But the Turks show up constantly.
Are you ready for the next bit of theory?
Yeah.
You know those 3 things you fight that become Bahamut?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories of what those are. And
Mhm.
one theory I've seen floating around is that I haven't watched Advent Children, but there are those 3 kids in Advent Children, like the followers of Sephiroth or something.
Mhm.
Apparently, there is a theory out there that those 3 things represent those 3 kids because they have some sort of connection to them, whether it's their name or whatever. And apparently that's their way of, again, pushing that, like, hey, this is Sephiroth from Advent Children. He brought these fuckers back. They're here now, but they're in these weird forms. And I was just like, okay, sure. I didn't watch Advent. I gotta rewatch Advent Children.
I
I
need
don't
to
know how I
watch
feel
that
about
again.
that one because I feel like I thought that those were like from creations of the Whisperers, not of
So-
Sephiroth.
Right, and that's kind of where that one falls apart for me. But having not seen Advent Children, not seeing Advent Children in over 10 years,
Yeah, I have not seen Advent Children in a long
Same.
time.
I cannot confirm that one.
Yeah.
But
I'm
that was like
hating
in
on
the same
Advent Children.
video as the Sephiroth from Advent Children coming back.
Is
and I
that
was like,
sealed too?
Yes.
oh,
I don't know
it's
what.
Blu-ray. Where
I
did you
honestly
get this?
do not know when I bought this. I don't know why I bought this because I've had this for a long time. Does this take place? It takes place after.
After
Okay. All right.
Seven.
after.
That goes nowhere near my.
It's actually on what's that streaming platform on PlayStation?
Crunchyroll.
Crackle.
Crunchyroll.
It's on Crackle. No, the Advent Children is on Crackle.
Oh, it's also on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh, okay.
I mean, it's basically anime.
Just in case you want to watch.
Yeah.
Might as well be. Oh god, what was the other thing? There was one other crazy ass shit theory. Oh. So,
Oh yeah. Have they gotten any theories regarding the 7 seconds line?
So the like first takeaway, I guess, was like you have 7 seconds to stop the end of Final Fantasy VII, right? You have 7 seconds to stop Meteor or whatever. That was kind of like everyone's first initial thought. But I haven't seen a lot regarding the 7 seconds line. I'm still kind of assuming it means the end of the game. It
Yeah.
could mean something else. There's another part of that game it could be referring to,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
What line is that?
It's
Is
when
when
him
Sephiroth is whispering to Cloud.
What
and
does he say?
they're on like the edge of creation. It's like during the
Yeah.
fight when they go to space.
That's cutscene, by the way. That to me was like, all right, can Sephiroth come to Smash now? This is a Smash trailer at this point. That felt like to me.
Yeah, so it's 7 seconds until the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. What will you do with it?
It could also be
Sephiroth
referring
sends up the
to
cloud.
maybe Sephiroth is trying to remake the universe. That's the other theory of like why this is called remake is because Sephiroth is literally remaking his own timeline.
He's remaking Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, basically.
That'd be, I hope that's okay. 'Cause-
There's some shit in there.
So,
I as someone who obviously did not play the original, so does not know, and has not looked down these rabbit holes of speculation because
because you'll get spoiled.
I know I don't want anything spoiled as much as I can avoid it, and I felt like there was a line, I can't remember the exact line, but I felt like there was something Sephiroth says in that space scene at the end of the game that also sounded like it was a commentary on the fact that the game is far from finished, and like the game, it's like our game that we're waiting to play is like not ready to be done, because he's like I forget what he says, but when he said it I was like, oh, like that makes me think like this is Square saying to me the story is not done, the game is not finished, like we have more to do for you. I don't know, that's how I felt during that scene.
As somebody who didn't have, because like I didn't have reference for it either, how did you feel about the whole Zack thing?
Oh man, Nomura, you son of a bitch!
I do not know who Zack is.
Oh my god!
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He has no idea.
Right, because I was the same way.
So when that,
you don't know who Zack is?
I know who Zack is now. I did not know when I finished the game.
Oh my god! Okay, so here's
I exist in this weird space where it's like, and I think I talked about this on the last episode of the podcast in regards to Last of Us. When there's something that I don't want to see a spoiler of, I feel like I'm somehow able to just not find myself in a situation where I would have it spoiled. So I know nothing about Final Fantasy VII. So like when Zack shows up, the only other time I've ever seen who Zack is I was scrolling Twitter one day and I saw someone post a screenshot from that final cutscene, and it was just who I thought was, why does Cloud have black hair? And the tweet was just simply, why don't we talk about this beautiful boy more? And I scrolled past it because I was like, I don't want to look at the comments, don't want to know what that is. Keep scrolling through.
Oh man, it's one of those things. Like I feel like, here's the thing. I feel like you could know who Zack is without ruining all of what Zack is about and his relevance to Final Fantasy VII. Does that make sense, Jesse? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so basically, Zack is who you. Okay, so I'm gonna no, Brendan. I'm telling you that like I can tell you some stuff without completely spoiling it for you. Okay?
Wait, before you say anything about Zack, because I don't know anything about Zack.
Okay.
This is what I think the final scene is, since I know nothing about what the fuck.
I want to hear this.
Yeah.
So
alternate timeline.
I didn't go that way until Todd said that he thinks it might be a separate timeline.
It definitely is, in my opinion. There's two things. One major thing, don't really want to say.
Of course.
That's a spoiler I don't want to say. The other one is because you see Stamp, and he's a different breed of dog.
Yeah, on the bag of chips that
fly by. On the bag of chips.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a bag of chips that flies. You see Stamp.
Yeah. And that's huge.
And he was like he's not a beagle.
He's like a beagle in the original.
He's like a beagle
like
in this timeline, but he's something else in another timeline.
So, fuck. Basically, the way that I tried to make any sense of it was, this is. It could potentially be, and again, I'm probably wrong because I don't have the proper frame of reference, but for someone who doesn't know anything else about what's going on, I'm like, maybe this is Cloud's past for some reason, and we're seeing more of Cloud's past, because Cloud is still, to me, very mysterious. You don't really know what's going on. A lot of the game, throughout the course of the game, you see Cloud having constant flashbacks and constant, like, clearly memories that he forgot for some reason resurging and playing a pivotal role in his character building. So I'm like, maybe this is just because it seems like in that scene, the only person that realizes what else is also being shown to the player is Aerith. So I'm like, Aerith can somehow see what else is going on. Is she understanding Cloud more now? Can she see Cloud's past? Can she see what's going on? Has she always been able to see what's going on? I don't know. So
you have to remember that Aerith is connected with
directly to the planet.
So she can sense when something is off.
So all I think is that, at least at this point, I think that scene is an intersection of them in what we just played through, leaving Midgar. So the present day, them leaving Midgar, and that's the past Cloud arriving at Midgar with Zack. So I don't know if that's actually anything, but that's how I interpret it because I don't know anything and I don't know who the fuck Zack is. So I interpret it as they're walking out, they're walking in. Maybe that's Cloud when he first becomes a soldier. And Zack is like his mentor. But then, now that I'm playing original, I'm very confused because it makes it seem as though in the past, Cloud is trained by Sephiroth, or at least the beginning of Cloud's journey. I don't fucking know.
I love your lack of knowledge. I love it. Oh my god.
It's
I
so
wish
crazy.
like part of me just wants to just tell you everything just so I can
Same,
see
man.
your
I've been waiting to text him like day in, and I'm like, do I send
So,
him something right now?
like, please message me when everything happens just so I can be like, yo, let's talk about this, man.
So when Todd has been telling me I need to get to that point of the game, and every time I get to a new milestone in the original, I'm like, I'm here now. How much longer? He's like, no, you got a while to go. I'm like, I'm here now. How much longer? Because he wants to tell me so bad. And like 30 minutes before we started recording this, I told him where I was, and he was like, can I just tell you? I need to tell you. He did not.
And that's like not even like the biggest reveal either. That's just like something else.
I
no,
will say in
but it's-
Remake, they
there's
do
so-
sprinkle very lightly across the game traces of Zack.
Yes, very much.
When you learn more about Zack and you look back on some of these moments throughout Remake, you'll understand a little bit more.
So
Also the bits, there are a lot of bits that show how Cloud may have, like how he's kind of having memory issues in ways that like aren't straight up his breakdowns, but like dialogue interactions where like if you don't know Cloud's backstory, you would just think that was just some weird like exchange, but it's like, nope, there's a connection there.
Right.
fuck.
But no, so Zack basically so you play as Zack in Crisis Core on the PSP.
Okay.
He is the main character you play as. And basically all I can really tell you without spoiling anything is that he's a soldier and he has a connection to Cloud. And yeah,
That's pretty much it.
This is like, so one of our good friends, Mike, not podcast Mike, that I brought up earlier, he loves Final Fantasy VII. He finally just finished it. Todd, he texted me today because I told him to let me know when he finished it because I want to know what he thought about the game. And he started talking about other things from the first game.
Oh, no.
And I immediately was like, I don't want to be spoiled. Do not say anything else. And he said something about Zack, but I literally blacked it out. I do not know what the text said, but he said something because I said to him, I was like, I'm so confused by who the fuck Zack is. I need to know. And he started saying stuff, and I was like, nope.
nope.
Those are the questions you ask.
Don't want to know anything.
But yeah, but something regarding Zack in that scene very much obviously plays off that like this is a different timeline.
Mm-hmm.
As along with the bag with the chips, because they needed something for people who aren't familiar with Final Fantasy VII and its lore to send the same message.
So it is an alternate timeline.
What's up, Kevin?
I think that is the main theory right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but the one thing that I'm not 100% sure about regarding that Zack scene is the Whisperers disappearing from Midgar at that time.
Yeah, that made no sense to me.
That part I didn't really fully understand, because as far as I knew, the Whisperers were a thing only in that one timeline. So yeah.
I was telling Brendan, what if we get like a whole new game from the Ultimate Timeline, and then they continue giving us small pieces of the original story down the line?
So
I wouldn't even be.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. So like I've like I said, I've read and I've watched a lot of other like spoiler casts and stuff, and a lot of people were talking about the idea that like you will still go to all of the familiar places, but they will all be just slightly different. Like they were saying, like, what if you go to Gold Saucer and Jessie is performing? She's the lead actress there, because in this alternate timeline, she never got mixed up with Avalanche, and she got her dream of being there, and then you go to talk to her, and she has no idea who you are because that timeline doesn't exist. Like all these weird, slightly changed moments could potentially be something.
Okay, I think hold on. So here's the thing. I don't think that moving forward, we are in this alternate timeline that Zach and that Zach scene took part.
So you think they're split?
I think they're legit split, and the reason why is because like I have no idea how Cloud's character is what could be the same as it is right now moving forward if that alternate timeline like intersected with the remake timeline. Does that make sense? Knowing Cloud's backstory and his connection to Zach, like that would make no sense to me.
Right. So what I'm thinking about, and this is why I hate timeline stuff, but like it is no more after all. Like the idea that like this group after beating the Whispers has transcended time. Like they are still the same people. They still have the same experiences that they had. They are now just thwarted into this unknown. Like even the game says like, oh, the unknown journey will continue or whatever, and like you could just take that as like we don't fucking know what's gonna happen.
That's how I took it.
That's how I took it. But like this idea that like if them and Sephiroth have now transcended time after defeating Destiny or whatever the hell giant whisper thing was, Arbiter of Fate, that they could now exist in a new timeline but be the same people because their past experiences weren't erased.
That would
just
be
moving forward.
Wild.
They're different.
That would be insane.
It would be, and I don't know how well that would go over. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a huge gamble if that is the route they decide to go.
Yeah, because oh man, like just knowing like stuff about Zach, and not particularly his particularly his connection to Cloud, but like just him as a character and like just what we know goes on with him. That like I don't know if fans at least would be very hot if things turned out differently.
I agree. No, I completely.
I feel like it might be one of those things where like Cloud and now I'm thinking that maybe Cloud and the gang are like Sephiroth, where they can time travel.
It's possible.
They can move. They can shift timelines.
Yeah,
and
anything is possible now.
They're trying to make it in a way that Zach's role is more prominent during a present time. Like that's what I'm thinking. Possibly it could be. That's the thing that personally that I've heard at least that makes the most sense.
Does Zach join my party in the original?
No.
Wait, hold on.
How long is the original? Can I beat this like
40 hours? I want to say.
Yeah,
40,
like 12 hours in. Can I beat this?
You
this
got
week?
time, my man.
You could.
Just turn the fast forward mode on.
I'm
so I've been looking more into this whole 7 seconds until the end thing. I think so. This is the thing that I've heard the most that I think is I like the most, or like isn't too ridiculous sounding, I guess. But from what I'm seeing, is just like because Sephiroth wanted Cloud to join him, so they basically become like this immortal being of sorts. You know what I mean? And the 7 seconds to the end is basically just like you refused to join me, so you're immortal, and you have like basically like I have you have like 7 seconds left in life, quote unquote, as like a saying, because you did not join me. Let's see what you do with it. Like let's see what you do with your life, or your mortal life, refusing to join me and become immortal like me, or like with me, because Sephiroth technically isn't immortal, but I mean,
He's got some shit to work
he is
out.
and he isn't at the same time. You know what I mean? For those that know Sephiroth's backstory.
Okay.
My mind is fucking
hold on.
gone right now.
I got another one for you. The scene when you're in the lab, I believe it's when you're in the lab, and you're with Red, and Red has a flash of him. It looks like him and another cat running through the desert.
Yes.
And then somebody said, and Aerith, I think, says, like, what was that? And he's like, a picture of tomorrow if we fail today. Also insinuates that shit is gonna change.
I was really confused by that scene. I remember that scene.
Hold on.
That scene is a nod to the original in some sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think it means to, cause this is straight up spoiler. So this is something I need to
give me this when we're good. Give me that.
So I think that teases specifically the very end, because technically, like, while Sephiroth loses, he also wins. Like, Meteor destroy, like fucks up the planet, you know. And you see Nanaki with, you know, his children, you assume, looking at a fucking over-vegetated Midgar. Like, you know, it's like, it's ruins. So I think that, like, that was just kind of tease, like, if we don't succeed today, like, it's just going to be the same thing all over again.
Right, that makes sense.
That's how I saw it.
Brenden, you can come back.
I underestimated how loud my headphones were, so I could still hear you, so I left the room. I was like, no, I don't want to know anything.
Oh, no.
No, it's not your fault.
It also
I didn't hear anything.
It wasn't the spoiler, so if you did hear anything, it wasn't.
It wasn't the spoiler. It was just something that, like,
the only thing I actually heard legibly was Sephiroth's name. I was like, I'm gonna walk out. Just gonna take a step out for a second.
Yeah. But yeah, I think. No,
should I do an experiment here? Should I not finish the original and just wait for the next part of the game?
No, absolutely not.
I think you should too. Yeah.
Because
we don't know when this is coming.
Brenden, you're telling me that after everything we just talked about, you're like, I don't need to know any of this.
I don't need to know.
When credits rolled, first of all, that outro song, fucking
Hollow, baby,
probably gave me tears.
That song is so good. It's Sector 5 Slums background music.
Yep.
Did that
without
song
the lyrics
always have lyrics or no?
No,
or
that song was made for this game, right?
It's just the credits.
But that song didn't have lyrics previously. It had lyrics for this game.
Yes, this was a song made for this game.
Okay,
made
all right.
For remake.
Well, if you want to dig into theories, I should stop listening to the song. You need to dissect the lyrics, because the lyrics are like the first fucking two lines. The two bars are like, was this all a dream? Like, I don't know. Like, it's definitely commenting on what the fuck just happened. So
it's so fucking crazy.
That made me think when it happened. I was like, is the Zack thing real? Is it just an illusion? Is it the past? What the fuck is Zack? Who is Zack?
Welcome. Welcome to it, man. It's a sickness.
I need to know. So, like, that's honestly, I legitimately started the original game that night because I was like, I need to know what is going on.
So
I need to get to Zack, basically.
One quick thing that, dude, and I'm telling you, that Nibelheim scene with Cloud and Sephiroth, like, rewatch that scene if you don't remember, like, every detail about that scene, because it's pinnacle.
The one I just saw, right? It's the
one that he explains in Calm.
Well, so now, I mean, I'm already putting together some things because they flash that scene. They flash a part of that scene twice in Remake, and it's when, and it made no fucking sense to me, and it confused the hell out of me when they kept flashing Tifa, like, laying over somebody
in the cowboy hat.
I was like, I was like, is this like a foreshadowing? Is something gonna happen? Is someone gonna kill Tifa? Like, what is gonna happen here? And it confused the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that full segment, like, in remake form. That's gonna be.
She picks up Masamune and she walks away with it.
Yep.
Does she pick it up in Remake?
No.
Yeah, she holds it.
Does she walk away from her?
She
person?
grabs it and she definitely stands up. I don't know if she walks away.
Okay.
But there's definitely a scene where she grips the hilt of that sword.
Yeah.
Because I was like, where the fuck did she get that?
If you want what I think is like, if you want to know what my just from playing the remake, where my brain is at right now, I already said the Zack stuff. I think that Sephiroth and Cloud are either related or the same person somehow.
Okay.
We will say that they definitely have a connection.
The connection, if it's not by blood, it's Genova, I would imagine.
Okay.
Genova, I feel like plays a role. I don't know if it's Genova is like where all of the soldiers come from. I have no fucking idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that plays a role.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I need to rewatch scenes from Remake now because I swear I remember seeing scenes in Remake where Cloud calls Genova mother, but it's very clear that Sephiroth calls Genova mother in the original game.
I will say, without spoiling, there's no spoilers. You are grasping at the right things. You are kind of grabbing the right pieces. I'm not saying you're putting them together perfectly or you're not putting them together perfectly, but you're definitely thinking.
You're going on the right path.
Yeah, you're on the right path.
If Aerith dies at the end of this game, I am not going to be able to handle it. And I feel like that's inevitable. Girl. She is the best girl. Fuck.
Who? Yeah, Tifa. Yeah.
Wait, Tifa?
Tifa's best girl. Are you kidding me?
Aerith. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Get to the end of the game and tell me that Aerith is still best
All right,
girl.
We'll see at the end of the game then, I guess.
Jesse has my name and we're both stagehands. I feel like I'm destined
that is destined
to have to defend her until the end.
Okay. Can we talk about how horny this game is?
Very.
This game is incredibly horny. Just what would you have looking at Tifa? Just something hard.
So
man.
Do those like very light decisions in Remake change any outcomes in this game?
Outside of Tifa's dress, no.
Okay.
The conversation scene.
Because in the original
scene you can have outside of Aerith's house.
Oh yes.
It could be Tifa, Barrett, or Aerith, I believe.
Yeah, I always get Tifa. I had
Aerith.
Okay.
Because in original, some of your decisions matter more, from what I'm understanding. So basically, the night that I finished Remake, it was like 2 a.m. I got in bed and immediately started playing 7 original. And when I got to Aerith for the first time, when she's giving you flowers, I feel like in the original, I'm not going to nitpick the original, but I feel like in the original, it's very easy to click the wrong option often. Like it's just the menus aren't great. So I accidentally clicked like go away to Aerith and she just walked away. So I then like quickly Googled and tried to safely, which I did not find any spoilers, but I tried to safely just see like, does conversation choices change anything in Final Fantasy VII? And from what I could read, it made it sound like if you are rude to people at the beginning of the game, later in the game, they don't have the same dialogue with you and you might miss certain parts of the story.
There's a point where you can go on the gold saucer. You can go on dates with people, and that's kind of dependent on like your relationships with them.
Oh,
but
okay.
Nothing like story significant, I would say.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Nothing like where like any major effects to the story will change.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
Right.
I bet it was like that was like probably 20 minutes to get to Aerith for the first time. So I restarted the game and got to Aerith and made sure I picked. I'll take a pull, please.
Any more theories, Jesse?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to dig some more up because it was like it was kind of like Brenden, where it was like I finished the game and then instead of starting Final Fantasy VII, I just started reading and like diving down the rabbit hole because I had been avoiding like most of the internet for like the better part of a week because Twitter can be trash and people can spoil things extremely easily. So one thing I love to do is finish a game and then just start diving into like just whatever I can find. And so I found a lot of that stuff up front, and like those were the things that stuck with me as like, because you have to sift through a lot of shit of like, all right, this person has no idea what they're talking about, they're just shouting things, and then some things you grab and you're like, you know what, I can see where you're putting the pieces together. And there's so much to dissect with this game because the whispers for as I would say insignificant as they are for most of the game, they're kind of just like a wall. Like in some points, literally a wall.
Mhm.
And then when you get to the end of the game, it recontextualizes 90% of that game all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And so you suddenly go back and play through that game again with this whole new perspective on every single time they show up. And that is just like fascinating that a game can do that. And they can just have your wheels spinning nonstop. And that's how I was for like the better part of like 2 or 3 weeks after 7. I just would not stop theorizing.
Yeah, I couldn't.
No, what's up?
I was gonna say I couldn't stop thinking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, like in general, like story, gameplay, everything, like just that entire experience for like 2 weeks once I beat it.
It's just like for a game that we started this podcast by saying like, you know, I had almost zero hype going into this game. Like I have no real affinity for 7. I love Final Fantasy, the franchise, but like Cloud, Tifa, none of these people, I had no affinity for them. I had no connection to them. And then to come out the other side of this game, not only being a Final Fantasy VII fan, but to be so deep in the lore, and like I said earlier, it's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to how stuff there is to absorb and its subsequent counterparts. And so I am just all in now, and I cannot wait for anything related to Final Fantasy VII.
So
when do you think we're getting this next part? What do you guys think?
I was going to say that 2 things. I was going to ask you how many parts you think we're going to get, and when we're going to get the next part. And I also am curious as to like, what did you guys think about like just like the ending in general? Not like the Zack stuff, but just like having to fight like the Whisperers and like, because as a big Kingdom Hearts fan, like the ending was very Tetsuya Nomura. Like he written all over it. I'm like, I will 100% like say that for better or worse. Like you could tell that this was a Nomura thing. And I really liked it. Like the person who reviewed it over at DualShockers, he loved the entire game until the end, and he just hated the ending. He hated how that part turned out. So I was kind of curious as to like how you guys felt about it. I really liked it. It's one of those things like it's really hard to, especially with what they're going for, to do something that would make a lot of sense or not be like nonsensical to a degree to make it work. You know what I mean? Like I really can't think of something that they could have done to make it, you know, less like over the top for like how grounded the game was throughout the first like 95% of the game. So I'm just kind of curious about how you guys felt about it.
I like the ending. I actually really enjoyed the ending. But my frustration comes from like now it's like when and it's more like, and I read something, and I don't know if this was just some bullshit article I read, but I read something about how they were saying now, like, you know, the scale of this first one was so big and everything, and that we want to get it out to you guys quicker, so it might be like smaller. Is that,
I saw that. I don't want that to happen. Take your time.
Same, man. That's terrible. I think that's a horrible idea. You get like an 8-hour game or something like that, and then you're like, okay.
No, they wouldn't do that, but I can totally see them making it shorter, because a lot of the criticisms were about the padding, so I could totally see them taking notes from this first game and taking that into the next game, and that could get us a tighter, more concise, like 25-hour story or something.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like 35 hours, like it took me 35 hours to beat the game. Like I don't like that's not that long in my opinion.
No, it's not long at all, but
especially for a JRPG. Like that's a decent, like that's playing through a Kingdom Hearts game, and those are even shorter on the shorter end of like JRPGs. So for me, I was just like, this is like kind of like the perfect length in my opinion. Like padding aside, like if you like didn't like 1 or 2 things, like, you know, kind of like we discussed earlier, that's fine. But I don't think like it was that padded. I think that a lot of the stuff that they added made Midgar feel more alive, like made me care about these characters that hopefully we'll see outside of Midgar too. Like again, like Leslie, you know, Kyrie, you know, those characters. So I don't know. But yeah, I personally think we're gonna get 3 parts. I think it'll be a 3-parter.
Was the original game 3 discs or 4 discs?
Yes, it was 3 discs.
3 parts.
So the third disc was like
cool.
The third disc was like
homage.
the last like 10% of the game. It was a short part of the game. But I think it's gonna be 3 parts. I think we'll get part 2 at the very earliest. Because they have like the models done. They have like a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
And they
Combat
switched to
system.
Unreal Engine 4. Like most of that legwork is done. Like
Yeah.
you think about the development that 7 Remake went through, it was outsourced originally and then it was brought in-house and then they switched over the engine and then they had to figure out, like, when they announced 7, Nomura didn't even know he was working on the game
Yep.
Yeah.
until the trailer had his name on it and he
Yep.
was like,
I
guess I'm
directing this
doing
game.
that too.
Yeah.
And he was already dealing with Kingdom Hearts 3 at the time.
Yeah.
So
People.
you have to imagine they're like already stuff has come out that they're already in pre-production or whatever. I have to
Yeah.
imagine that game is further along than they're alluding to.
I would hope that they, at the bare minimum, I mean, besides the fact that they have an engine built, they have all these character models, they have the combat systems, they have all these things already created. So, it's just building upon that. I would hope that whatever their plan is for the story, because it seems like they're going to maybe stray a little bit from the original, that the story is already written. So that what they're building is a project they already made. Because if the story from what just happened is like they're still writing it as it goes, that makes me super nervous.
I
If
think
I
like
remember-
the storyboard stuff is done, but the actual dialogue and things. I
Yeah,
think
well, that
they're
stuff
working-
would be fine to me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's the case. I think so.
I remember seeing something somewhere, and I'm sorry I can't source it, but I read somewhere that like the way they were looking at this is they were writing it from the end backwards, and so they like knew where they wanted to end up, and they were kind of like storyboarding from back to front instead of front to back, and so they kind of knew where the characters needed to be when they started kind of dealing with all of this, so they were able to we know we need to get to point B. Like, let's figure out how to get to point B now. And so they kind of have most of that, I think, already decided. And now it's just a matter of, like, how the fuck do we get there?
Got it. So if that's what they're doing, this is a split timeline. It's going to run. The next game is going to be 2 different timelines going on at the same time. The third game is going to be 2 different timelines going on at the same time. But it's going to end in a culmination fight between Cloud and Sephiroth in one timeline, Cloud and Sephiroth in the other timeline. It happens at the same time, and then because they want to be fucking crazy extra, the cinematic where the 2 timelines somehow merge and that fight's gonna happen at the same time, and it's 2 Clouds versus 2 Sephiroths at the end before, I don't know, fall in love with Tifa.
That would be
instead of
some
Aerith.
Nomura shit, for sure.
And then Yozora shows up.
Oh no, Sora.
Yeah, I mean that. I think that if our like deductions are correct, I think that there will be parts of moving forward where we will be playing as Zack in the alternate timeline, Zack and Cloud, and doing whatever that's gonna end up being, if that is the case. But I think it's gonna be 2 parts. I think it's gonna end with that big moment if it does happen in this game or in this remake. I personally still think it's gonna happen. Which not you, Brendan, but like, do you guys think it's still gonna happen?
Without spoiling, no idea.
Yeah, same, man. After that, how that ended, I just don't know now.
I feel like
it could go anywhere.
It's just too embedded into
I
Final
agree.
Fantasy VII that like it would just be.
I don't think it would be a good look.
Wrong. It would be wrong to
Yeah,
not.
I agree with you. I agree.
I
So
don't know.
we'll see. But yeah, I think it's gonna be 3 parts. I think that's a good number. I think, yeah, knowing that like they have a lot of the stuff done, unless they decide to move to Unreal Engine 5, like for the last entry,
Yeah.
which I don't really feel like that
We'll never get the game.
Yeah, I don't think they need to do that either. I think we're gonna get the next one in 2 years, like around the same time
can see that.
release, and then
Knowing Square, they'll announce it way ahead of time. We'll see a trailer like in like a month from now, and then it'll be like, hey, this game's 3 years away, and it'll be like, all right, time to forget about it.
For
So-
at least the second part, regardless of how many parts it ends up being, I wouldn't hate if we got an announcement soon of some sort of timeline for the second piece of the game, just so I could kind of compartmentalize it in my brain of like, all right, this is when this story is going to continue. without necessarily having. I mean, it'd be nice to know, but without necessarily having to know when the entire thing will be done. But it would kind of be nice to know a rough idea.
A year.
Yeah.
2023.
Exactly.
Be like,
Yeah.
all right,
Like
great.
I don't need to know release date. I don't even know whatever. Honestly, if they just come out and say we're hoping to have this out within the next 2 years, that would be fine for me. Like I just want to know that like there's some sort of goalpost that they're aiming for. They probably won't, or actually, again, it's Square, so they might, but who knows? My thoughts on the end of the game, obviously, it made me immediately start playing the original. So it confused me. I loved it. I want to know more. Overall, I loved the game. I think it probably could have been a 10 for me if they honestly just shaved off the gameplay stuff that I thought was just not necessary. Like I don't think it added anything to the game, other than it existed in the original, which I don't think is worth it. But I really enjoyed my time with it, and now that we've had this very long discussion about it, I like really feel like I kind of love Final Fantasy VII, and B, if they do like when you're going down these roads of theories and you guys are talking about all this stuff, if they do like even 50% of the stuff you guys are saying in this new game and somehow tie it into the original, but also make this new thing, and maybe in the end of the new thing, it like ties it all back into this big cumulative thing, all it makes me think in my brain is like, I mean, I love the MCU and I love what they do with like tying all this shit together. If they're weaving some magical fucking journey and at the end of this all it's gonna make sense, I'm fucking here for it. And it could end up being like one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, Final Fantasy VII will definitely do that. I promise. Like we can already tell you that that's definitely going to happen.
I feel very confidently that when I finish the original, I'm gonna love it simply because I'm like, I can't. It has actually been the only thing that has made me play Animal Crossing less. I'm still playing Animal Crossing, but it has made me play it less because I'm more interested in like, all right, what the fuck's going on here? Where's Zach? God damn it.
I will say, in regards to the actual end of the game, in terms of like that last stretch, I did not like the boss fights up into two Sephiroth.
Yeah.
I loved the Sephiroth fight. I thought the big Arbiter of Fate man, where you're like hacking away at him slowly, I felt like that was in there because one, they needed the whispers to make sense, so they needed to contextualize them.
Yeah.
But I also felt like it was them saying, we need to cap off this game with a big boss fight because it needs to signify this is the end of the first game, because leaving Midgar is not a climactic thing like big enough that like signifies like this is the end of a video game. And I felt like if you would have just given me a fight with Sephiroth on that broken road when you walk up to him and it's like, hey, this is the last bench and vending machine you're going to get, like make sure you stock up before you go forward. Like if I just fought Sephiroth on that broken road, I would have been like, hell yeah, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
Yeah. I think you're right there. I think like for like the gamer mentality, they made that second to last boss fight extravagant for that reason. I gotta feel like I'm destroying a big bad when honestly I could have done without that entire part and just fought Sephiroth and would have been like very, very satisfied.
Because I think 15 has one of the best Final Fantasy final bosses because it's just you and one other guy just going at it. All your abilities, no holds barred. It's not this big bombastic monster. It's just like that fight with Sephiroth is so good because it's like you and your team just going at Sephiroth. It's this one-on-one thing. He's a beast, but he's a humanoid. He's a normal size. He's just a master at what he does.
Yeah.
And
honestly,
so that makes it so intense.
What makes that fight so good, besides like the cinematography and the way that they present the fight, like when it starts and it's just you and Sephiroth, I'm like, all right, badass fight, me and Sephiroth. And then it's like you get him to a certain point, and then fucking Aerith shows. I think Aerith shows up first.
It depends on how your party's built.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So like for me, it was Aerith and then Tifa. That's how my party was.
Yeah, for me it was Tifa and Aerith in Tifa 2, I think, in that order. I think so. But it can be Barrett and then someone else takes place of Barrett.
I think it's
with
it must be how you choose to fight the behemoth, because don't you choose who you want, and then the other, well, in my case, Barrett was like, I'll go fight the big guy, and then he leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's dependent on how your party set up, I'm pretty sure.
But regardless, that presentation of like I'm squaring off myself, and then slowly my team comes and helps me, like it's like very, very cinematic and like very satisfyingly climactic. And then, like, you can't actually beat him. You end up in the edge of fucking nowhere, and
creation.
He's like, nah, bitch, this ain't done.
Do you think about those Kingdom Heart boss fights against Sephiroth? And how it's just like mano y mano, the hardest boss fight you're going to have in the game.
Kingdom Hearts 2 Sephiroth? Oh,
yeah.
man.
Proud mode.
And it's like that cranked up to 25 in Remake. And, like, I just feel like you could have just taken away everything leading up to that. All those other monster fights, like the Arbiter Fate felt very much like a Kingdom Hearts boss.
Yeah.
The whole time I was looking at it, I was like, this is a Kingdom Hearts boss.
I think, like, I agree, but also I'm just thinking, like, more just for the game's objective to just be like, yo, this and the narrative, like, representation of what they're doing, it makes sense. Like, it makes sense to me that, like, this is fine. Like, it is, like, it felt off. It felt very Nomura-y, very Kingdom Hearts-esque. I will 100% agree. But for me, like, this game is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's probably my favorite game this generation. I wouldn't say it is the game of the generation in my opinion. Like, holding off my own bias, but and just like looking at it as a piece of art of sorts. But
what do you have a game of the generation, or a game you think is the generation game?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of torn between two, but yeah. Personally, I think it's either Red Dead 2 or Undertale. One of those two.
Okay.
Those are the only two.
I'm with you on Red Dead.
And for different reasons. Undertale, I think, is just because there's never, like, while it obviously has its inspirations from like Earthbound and things like that, it's just a one of a kind game that, like, and it's a masterpiece. And Red Dead 2 is like the only game I think I've played this generation, maybe outside of Final Fantasy VII Remake, just as a JRPG, and like how it's just like, this feels like a game I like that would be like a mainstream type of game, like in just its quality, like maybe next generation or even the generation after that, like just of how it's built and things like that. Like, I don't think another studio could make a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 unless it was Rockstar again. Like, I don't think anyone could create Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't think a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 will ever be created again. And I know, like, a lot of people are like, oh, the controls are ass, or like, whatever.
The controls are bad. That's my opinion, though. I do not like Red Dead.
I have no issues with them.
I don't think GTA 5 is good either. So.
Oh, GTA 5? No, I don't like GTA 5. Like, with Red Dead Redemption, they're trying to simulate realism, and the controls match that, and which is why I think it's like, while are they ideal for me just wanting to play a game? No, but for what it's doing in its game, it makes complete sense to me. So.
And I get that, but for me, as someone trying to play a game, I want to play a game. I think that's where I stand. I don't know. I stand
GTA 5. No shame towards GTA 5. That game rules. I don't want to hear any slander about GTA 5.
I played it for like 5 minutes and then
GTA 5. This is where I stand on Rockstar. GTA 5 gets a pass because it's technically a 360 and PS3 game, so it's fine. It's very old. Red Dead 2 has, in my opinion, some very slow and janky controls for what should have been, in my opinion, a benchmark title for this generation.
I think the controls fit, though. Like, when you're shooting a revolver, that's how it feels. When you're shooting at people, that's how, like, it's how it feels.
You've never felt it. You've never shot a revolver.
All right, let's save this for the Red Dead Redemption 2 podcast.
Welcome to Red Dead Radio.
We can't go down this rabbit hole. We'll be here forever.
Like, it's not easy to aim a revolver from that time period. It's not easy to aim a revolver from that time period.
It's the same reason why I couldn't get into Witcher 3, because I think Witcher 3 has really janky controls.
I agree on that.
I agree as well.
Let's reel it back in.
Yes.
Let's reel it back in. We can have a Game of the Generation podcast after in a few months. Okay.
Okay.
We lost Jesse. He's mad that we're talking mess about The Witcher 3.
I dropped my glasses. I had to get them.
But no, I think it's a 10 out of 10 game. I definitely think it's like along with Persona 5 for different reasons. They're both by far the best JRPGs that have come out this generation and in a very long time in general, I would say. Great game.
Is your opinion going to change on best generation JRPGs when She Dreams Elsewhere comes out, though?
I mean, it's a turn-based JRPG. It's a turn-based RPG. I wouldn't say it's because here's the thing. We're in this point now in like gaming where people like, for me, when I say JRPG, I mean something with turn-based combat, like, or something that is made by a Japanese studio. While I feel like a lot of people are starting to say like, oh, JRPGs are only RPGs made by Japanese studios. But I also consider JRPGs under the realm of turn-based combat because that's just kind of like how it's always been. Like Pokemon is a JRPG, like it's turn-based combat. Like so, and it is technically made by
No, I agree with you. Turn-based is what to me signifies JRPG. I meant it in regards to Persona 5 and Undertale, not Final Fantasy VII Remake. Because I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I hope it lives up to this stupid hype I'm putting in my head. I think She Dreams Elsewhere could potentially be the next Undertale.
I agree. I agree completely. I wrote about that.
I've never heard of this.
It's also for the most part a one-man studio. Davion is.
I've been standing this game since PAX West.
You're the reason that I went and played it at PAX East.
Yes.
Where was it at PAX East, and why did nobody tell me about this?
It was in the Mega booth, or at least on the Fringe. It is Persona meets Undertale. It's so good.
I expect all of you to keep me up to date on these things.
I don't have time to play it either.
I'm an old man.
Oh, but anyway, yes, I do think that like I feel the same way about She Dreams Elsewhere. Like the only thing that I'm kind of like worried about is that I forgot how long Davion told me how long that game is going to be, but he made it sound like it was going to be really short, which kind of makes me sad, but we'll see. Anyway, but like my closing like thoughts on 7 Remake is that first off, we didn't really talk about like Barrett. I think Barrett is the shining star of this game, like with the character and personality, like the scenes where he was with Marlene. Like, are you kidding me? Like, freaking
Marlene's voice actress is so good.
Can I say that for a majority of this game, and honestly, I'm still not convinced otherwise until the original just told me otherwise. I thought Tifa was Marlene's mother. Like, I thought that Barrett and Tifa had some sort of some point relationship. Because I don't think Barrett ever mentions a mother at any point in the remake, but in the original he does eventually mention her. But yeah, I was like, I'm so confused. Did like Barrett and Tifa hook up at some point, and that's where this kid came from?
Yeah, no, like Barrett freaking was great. My favorite bit for him was just the part where they leave. First off, Aerith's house, like they fucking nailed that shit.
No,
like, that
so
was
good.
Amazing. But the part where he just like puts on his glasses, because he's not wearing glasses for the long time, and he puts on his glasses, he's like, she's tougher than me. I'm just like, oh man, that. Yeah.
When he like picks her up on his bicep.
Yeah. just dad of the year, man. And it's just so heartbreaking because, especially because like, having played the game, like this is the last time he's going to see her and for a very long time, and it's a heartbreaking goodbye. And then at the end of the game where he's just like, Marlene, I'll come back. I'm like,
that's why that scene in Aerith's house with Marlene, that's why I was like, if they fucking kill Barrett now, I'm gonna be so pissed off. Like, I'm gonna be so mad. Like, that's the scene that like turned Barrett for me. I was like, oh. The scene, I think it's also when they're back at Aerith's house there, the scene where Cloud goes out into the garden and Aerith like appears.
That's the scene we were talking about where like it could be Tifa, Aerith, or Barrett.
It could be 3 different people in that scene.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like with Tifa like basically like cries and like you hold on to Tifa as she's crying, you're consoling her. Yeah, I don't know what Barrett's is.
Because Aerith is like pretty important. She's like, don't fall in love with me.
Yeah,
she's like, don't you dare fall in love with me.
Yeah,
I want to say I had Barrett, and I can't remember.
That Aerith
because Aerith, because Aerith was just like a figment of his imagination, right?
In that scene, yeah.
In that scene, yeah.
Yeah.
because she'd already been captured by.
Yeah, she was already
yeah.
captured
Well,
by saying.
she went willingly, but yeah.
Fuck, man, there's so many questions. First of all, the Turks. They don't ever fully explain what the Turks are or why they're called the Turks. But Seng, I need to know what his fucking deal is, because he just only shows up to take Aerith. You don't fight him. And he seems so fucking mysterious.
I kind of like
Anyway.
to think that of the Turks as like specters from Mass Effect. They kind of just do whatever the fuck they want.
Okay.
They kind of they answer to people, but they're kind of like free to roam Midgar as they please and do whatever the fuck they want.
Okay.
Yeah, they're basically they're basically like the level above soldiers of sorts. So you know what I mean? Like they're like their own. Think of like the Secret Service or something. You know,
Yeah.
like you think of that.
Yeah, the original makes it seem like they're like the Rufus's Rufus's direct henchman.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, Barrett freaking killed it. What else was I gonna say?
While you're thinking of it, I do have one point, which
Yeah.
I thought was extremely funny. I mentioned earlier that my roommate is playing this game,
Mhm.
and my roommate is the kind of person who, when he plays a game, especially when I'm sitting in the living room with him, like he'll call out things that are ridiculous, just like out loud. He'll be like, "Why are they doing that?" And one of the things he pointed out to me, which I had not noticed originally, was in Seventh Heaven, they have that pinball machine that goes down into the ground into their secret lair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's like, there's a bunch of mechanics right behind the pinball machine. You can clearly see that this does something else. And if you look, it's like a huge like elevator mechanic thing behind the pinball. He's like,
Yeah.
who are they hiding this from? Like you can clearly see that this is like this goes down and up.
In the remake, can you go down there? No, right?
No,
No.
you
Okay,
can't.
alright.
Which made me sad. That was like one of
Yeah.
the things I was just like, man, what the like I was looking forward to that a lot.
All I did while playing through the original in Midgar was like, wait, did I miss that in the remake? Like that's all I fucking did was like,
Yeah.
could I have done that?
Yeah.
Did you play darts?
Yeah. Of course.
Yes, I beat Wedge. Fuck Wedge.
Hell yeah.
I got the 6 darts. It was funny because like when I played it normally like my first time through, I nailed it. And then I played it on stream and I just was fucking sucking so bad. It was terrible. I was just like and I didn't have to play it. I just wanted to, and then it was just I couldn't do it. It was terrible.
I have a question. Roche.
Oh yeah, Roach.
Is he in the original?
No, he's
No.
new.
Okay. So there was a theory about him, and I'll hit you with this theory because I didn't want to spoil anything if this wasn't the original because I hadn't looked into it. But there's a scene with Cloud
Roach
later
Spider.
on in the game.
Motorcycle, dude.
The most
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yes,
the
okay.
soldier
I was
dude,
like,
the,
who
the
is
crazy,
Roach?
batshit crazy dude.
He's
the dude with the
So-
bike fetish.
So
Super
you
anime.
meet,
The most
you meet
anime
him,
scene in
so
the
you
anime,
learn-
dude.
You learn that soldiers are like top of the line, like they've been infused with Mako energy, like they can do all this crazy shit, like as you can see by Cloud and Roche, like they have these abilities. So I had seen a theory that if this is an alternate timeline or a split timeline, we may encounter Roche later, but he'll be like emaciated and like dying because there's that scene where they talk about degradation within soldiers, and like they say something to Cloud like offhand, like you I think it's Aerith's mom. She says something like you traded a normal life for power or something like that, and then you later learn that like soldiers' cells rapidly degenerate after a period of time, like they hit their prime and then they start going down.
Basically like
So
Captain
there was-
America. Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so there's this theory that you will encounter Roche in a timeline in which his cells have already degraded, and the next time you meet him, you won't even recognize him because he's not this flamboyant, like over the top extraordinaire person. He's like this like dying man. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
yeah, I
That'd
mean
be
they
cool
don't
to
they
see.
don't specify like how much they shorten your lifespan, but it would be interesting. I'm definitely interested to see how that works out because I mean like how long does Advent Children take place after 7? Do we know?
I think it's 3 years, 30 years. Is it?
It's not.
Yeah,
I think it's something with a 3. I think it's 3 years.
Okay, if it's 3, yeah, if it's 3 or even if it's 13 years or something like that, like I mean, you know,
2 years have passed since
Oh,
Midgar.
2.
2 years.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to read. I don't want to
so,
read any
you know,
further than that.
Cloud looked fine. Like you know, I think.
That's why I'm
yeah,
saying like alternate timeline, like maybe like he became a soldier way earlier in the time or whatever. There's just the theories thrown around because he disappears in the beginning of that game and then you never see him again.
Mm-hmm.
He just dips out.
Yeah, it was definitely like just an introduction piece, I think, for him later on.
So, Greysun, final thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Yeah, like even with the flaws that I talked about earlier, the small little things that kind of bugged me, this game is excellent. Like it's my game of the year so far, for sure. There might be some other games that come out that might bring it down a notch, but I think it might be my game of the year. Someone who's never played the original game, I really felt attached to this world. Not necessarily attached to the characters, but I did enjoy seeing them in this light, like in this modern HD remake. It was so cool seeing them come to life, and then the combat was excellent. The ending itself, like you said, it was fucking confusing, but I was there for it. Like I was into it. Super excited to play the next part to see where the story goes. I also want to play the original. I did start it on my Switch. I'm only like 4 or 5 hours in, which is a little bit after they leave Midgar, just so I can experience the whole story. But I also don't want to be spoiled in the next part. So I'm kind of like there with you. Like I don't know if I should play the original or not, but I think it's best to just play it, just so you can compare.
Yeah,
you should definitely play it. And what's so different. The thing is, I don't really like the original that much. Like I tried playing that game like 4 times maybe throughout my life, and I just can never get past like 10 hours. It just like, I don't know what it is.
There's definitely some stuff that's like not
super
great.
dated.
Yeah,
I hate how the game
definitely
looks.
Has his age.
Like,
definitely has his age.
I don't like how the game looks, and it is very aged. Right. I remember playing it like on my PSP or something back in the day, and it was like impossible sometimes to see like where you would have to go in that giant screen.
That's probably the hardest.
Use like the red. You have to use like the red icon things to help you out. But sometimes I'm still like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what I can interact with. But the remake is good. It's a very good game.
The few times that I've had any issue, like I don't know where I'm supposed to be walking, just because I literally can't make out what is a doorway. I can't figure out where to go. The IGN wiki for the original game is like very clear. It's like condensed to the point where it's like walk to this corner. So like I've been using that if I literally can't find where I need to walk next, and it hasn't like spoiled anything for me. So
yeah,
I mean, to experience the story, which is I think at this point that's the reason to play the original, unless I'm wrong. But I feel like just to experience the story, the gameplay is fine for a JRPG. Like it's obviously dated in a lot of ways, but the gameplay's fine, but like traversing the world, I would just. I'm
fast forwarding. I'm fast forwarding the entire time, and there are times when I feel like the fast forward isn't even fast enough. Where I'm like, I just want to skip through. Like the battle can be kind of slow, or sometimes moving up a ladder, like stuff like that. Where like I just want to rush, and I rush through it. It's the remake is I'm very happy with it. And when it ended, I wanted the part 2 like immediately to see where everything would go.
What about you, Todd? Oh, go ahead.
I did want to say, like, I feel bad for those people that are just like, oh, I'm just going to wait for all the parts to come out. I'm like, have fun.
Yeah. What about you, Todd? Where do you stand on final thoughts on Remake?
I mean, overall, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm in the minority, though, I know that. I love the story, but I think I went into this kind of pissed off knowing that we don't know when we're getting the next one, so I don't know. I think it stopped me from getting into this one a lot, like it like hindered my enjoyment of this because like I said earlier, this is like a 6-hour part of the original game. So like, I don't know where it's going next. I would have liked a lot cut out of it. Like the stuff I said at the beginning, which I like, because there were so many times, like I said, that like, I'm like, I fucking love this game. And then I was like, I don't know if I love this game, and I was just going back and forth, and it ended really strong. So, I mean, I did enjoy the ending minus the motorcycle part, but I mean, I'm sure the next one is going to be great, but I think it all is hindered on the fact that I'm annoyed that I just don't know when I'll be able to play more of this. And, and that has a lot to do with my decision in the game itself too.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, because I think this could either break the next games or make the next games. I'm curious to see how they handle like an overworld type traversal, or like leaving, because this whole game took place for the most part or I guess the whole part in Midgar, whereas like the next parts, how are they going to handle traveling to other locations? Like, is it going to become all of a sudden an open world RPG, or is it going to be very linear but like look open? So I'm curious to see how they handle that specific detail in the future parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair.
I
Yeah.
never thought of that actually.
I was in the same boat. Like, do they just make it super linear, or do they do
Yeah.
kind of what 15 did, where it was like there are open world sections, and
Yeah.
then the game goes back to being linear? Is that too jarring? Like, how do you deal with an overworld if you're not going to have the entire world there?
Mhm.
If this
And
is
I'm-
just part 2, you're not getting a lot of the other stuff in the overworld.
And I'm honestly fine with it, and I would probably prefer it if it was not super open world, just because like I love JRPGs, but one of the reasons why I like a game like Bravely Default or Octopath Traveler is that they allow you to, without breaking the game, like kind of take up some of the stuff that dates JRPGs or makes JRPGs unappealing to a lot of people, which is in Bravely Default you can choose the rate in which like random encounters happen. And that, like, I can't remember if Octopath does that too. Octopath does something similar if it doesn't. But like those little things that like can be very off-putting to people for JRPGs, like, and me, I like JRPGs, but like, yeah, I don't want to walk every 5 feet and fight a random encounter. I don't know. Final Fantasy VII Remake story is so good for me. I really just want them to inject more story into me. Like, I just give me more of this story in the best way possible, and that's what I want from the next parts.
Ascend into the live stream. Fill yourself with that Mako goodness.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that wraps up a very long-winded conversation.
Yeah, but like we might go for an hour.
I know.
Yeah, you were like,
Very-
oh, we could do an hour, right?
Well, I
Or 5.
I mean, I did want to like quickly say, like, what do you think this means for the future of Final Fantasy? Like, do you think we're not getting other games for a while outside of 7's expansions, or like?
Yeah, I don't
are
think
we-
Final Fantasy 16 is coming anytime soon.
How do you
Yeah.
put out 16 when there are people still waiting for 7, and the discourse around this game and the hype around this game? Like, there
Yeah.
is no. I can only think of maybe a couple other games that have the reverence that 7 does. Not even just in Final Fantasy, in games period. How do you just be like, oh yeah, we're working on that other part, and get people to care about any other Final Fantasy related project?
Yeah.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake is Final Fantasy 16, basically.
Yeah. I was gonna
So
say the
even
same thing.
after remake is done, like, do you think that they then choose the best Final Fantasies and just do this to them, or do they
No.
then do
No,
16?
No,
I
Final
think they'll
Fantasy
go to
7 is
16.
Final Fantasy 7 specifically is just like it's just, it's one of the all-time greats. It's one of those. It's literally their golden boy. Like,
Isn't
for the
there
company.
another one that people like, the people that don't say 7 is the best? Isn't there another specific numbered one?
It's usually 6 or 9.
It's usually
6 or
6
9.
Okay.
Oh, see, for me, from what I like, the people I hang out with, it's 6 or 10. But I know that there is like a group of people that
Okay.
like.
Yeah,
Like
I
that-
love 9.
There is a
yeah,
lot
no,
of reverence for
There
10.
are people that like will die on a hill literally forever that Final Fantasy 9 is the best Final Fantasy,
It's very good.
because
So-
it goes back to the more medieval like
Yeah.
fantasy.
And that's a game that would be
aspect.
more deserving. That game needs a remake more than 10. That
Well,
makes
they
sense.
did the HD remasters of 10 and 10.2 like not terribly long ago.
Yeah.
Whereas in like 9 has just been straight ported to other
Yeah.
things.
It's-
Like they
it's
haven't
had like
really done anything.
HD. It had like when it was ported to Steam or whatever, it had like those HD graphics, but it looks the same pretty much.
And
Yeah.
I don't think 6 has gotten anything significant. If I
No.
remember correct, even the PC port of 6 is the mobile version.
Yeah, no, if you want to
Some
play
of those are
6,
actually
you want the
kinda ugly.
SNES or you want the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah.
So-
But like, and I think with 6 specifically, just because like its art style specifically, it's just one of those things that like I think that 6 fans would not be happy if it got remade, because like
It'd be
a big
tough.
charm of that game is its art style. So
There's so many characters too.
Yeah. This is
So if I finished 7 tomorrow, which I won't, but if I finish 7 tomorrow, I have 8, 9, and 10 and 10-2 on my Switch. Do I start one of those, or do I play Kingdom Hearts: The Story So Far on my Xbox.
You can play Kingdom Hearts story so far.
I mean,
Kingdom Hearts is a franchise I love, but it is so hard to
it's
recommend people
not good
play
to
all of
start
those
with-
games.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Kingdom Hearts. As what Brandon would call me, the Kingdom Hearts guru of sorts. The first game has aged poorly. It has aged poorly, but it is a great Kingdom Hearts is 100% made like this was going to be a one and done game, and like it had the setups for a second game if they got it. You know what I mean? Second game is still a masterpiece to this day, in my opinion. It has aged like fine fucking wine. There's very little things to critique about that game. And then they with 358 and coded, like they have the cutscenes there if you want to watch them. You can also play the games. Like honestly, like I would say play those games at least once. Like for better or worse. For better or worse, play the games at least once. Why not? Chain of Memories, divisive. I like Chain of Memories. A lot of people don't like the card system. I love the card system. Cool. Birth by Sleep, right up there with Kingdom Hearts 2. Fantastic game. Dream Drop Distance. It's something. It's something. It's not the worst in the series, but like it introduces things that kind of make the story moving forward to Kingdom Hearts 3 like a little ridiculous. And Kingdom Hearts 3 is a solid 8 out of 10 game. There you go. There's Kingdom. That's
Right.
Kingdom Hearts franchise for you.
Or you could play Final Fantasy IX, which is a perfect video game.
Yeah.
I think
Is
they
Final Fantasy
just
a
put
video game.
I think they just
9
put 9 on Game Pass too. They put one of them on either 8 or 9. I can't remember.
Tried playing 12, wasn't into it, uninstalled it.
Yeah. I don't like 12.
Yeah, I heard Final Fantasy 12 is pretty divisive as well. 8, 12, and 13 are like the three divisive titles. Like you either love them or
15
hate
is
them.
divisive too.
12
I feel
has
like they're all,
MMO
like-
style combat, which was a draw for me at first,
Mhm.
but it like doesn't advance in the way like the job system and the whatever it's called, the zodiac symbol, whatever. That was fine. That was good. probably got like 10 hours into it.
I haven't played 12, and I
Very
want...
unappealing environments.
It's very
What
ugly.
Lot of deserts, a lot of brown.
What I am most likely going to do is when I finish 7, finish Persona 5 because I need to do that.
Just
And
play Royal.
I should really finish.
Yeah, just play Royal.
I should really finish Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yes, you
Oh,
should.
no.
Yes, you should. That game is so fucking good.
But with that, we should definitely wrap this up.
Well, we got 15 minutes, and then we got the 4-hour mark, baby.
So before we close things out, first of all, thank all of you for coming on here talking about Final Fantasy VII and I guess other Red Dead, other things for 3.5
Smash
hours.
Brothers.
Smash Brothers, whatever else. So go around the horn, plug all the things you want to plug, where people can find you, see your stuff, read your stuff, watch your streams, whatever you want people to do. Now's the time. Cam, if you want to start, you can start.
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me. My writing is at DualShockers, DualShockers.com. You can follow us at DualShockers. We have a great team there, a great group of peeps. You can follow me at the Cinephile Guy on Twitter. And yeah.
And you should
Um,
you're streaming a lot now, right?
Oh yeah, and I stream.
Yeah.
I stream a lot at twitch.tv/the Cinephile Guy.
Yeah. You're playing through Royal right now or Final Fantasy
I'm
VII?
playing.
Both?
So I'm primarily like my scheduled sort of stream schedule of sorts. I'm playing through my hard run of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then I'm gonna start streaming through the Paper Mario franchise because I want to play through those
ooh.
Nice.
before the Origami King comes out.
Have you not played any of them?
Have I not? No, I have
Okay.
not.
Oh
You
wow.
can
Okay.
skip Sticker Star.
No, I have not.
Don't play that game.
Skip Color Splash too.
Yeah, so I basically so I got I got the first 3 on an emulator ready to go. I have I have Sticker Star on my on 3DS. I'm gonna play
That
for
away.
for better or worse.
Get it out.
And then I'm going
Put those stickers
to
on it.
and then I have a buddy who has a Wii U and he's gonna let me borrow that so I can play Color Splash. So
I did not play Color Splash. But I
So-
like the Mario RPG games. But Grayson?
You can follow me on Twitter, just like Greysun Morales. And then you can find my writings at Twinfinite, twinfinite.net. Yeah, that's it.
Jesse?
You can also find my writing at twinfinite.net because Grayson and I are coworkers. Yay!
hell yeah.
You can follow me on Twitter. It's just at Jesse Vitelli. My username is Mama Vitelli, if you were confused. I stream when I'm not at my parents' house, when I'm back in my apartment, when maybe all of this craziness is over. Just twitch.tv/Jestifer, JESSTERFER. I stream a lot of random shit at all hours of the day. I have no schedule, but just whenever I'm bored. And
You'll
also,
randomly tweet out like, "Oh, I'm playing the Silent Man at 4 a.m. tonight."
I played through the Quiet Man. You can find that on
Oh,
YouTube.
the Quiet
That
Man.
game, oh boy. I played through that and I got halfway through the audio playthrough and had to stop.
The Quiet Man? What is this?
Yeah, just
It's
look
a
it up.
Enix
terrible,
game.
terrible game that was
Published
made
by Square Enix.
Yeah.
What?
I can't believe you never heard of it.
Just look
It was
up
announced,
the
like,
Quiet
at
Man when
E3
we're
or
done
something.
here. It's like a
Yeah.
2-minute trailer. It's a mix of live action and really bad gameplay. It's it does a lot of things very poorly.
Got
But yeah,
terrible
that's me.
reviews.
Sweet. Well, like I said, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. As always, everyone can always find our stuff at passcontroller.io, on Twitter and on Instagram at passcontroller, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/passcontroller. You can find me at bgroom, and you can find Todd at Toddy_by_nature. And thank you so much for listening to this special episode 199, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then some Spoilercast.